This one's going out to everybody in the place. Sounds of the Dragon Checker. Go ahead. Yes. Here comes the Tricks Terminator. In control. On the mic, I'm the teacher. Spread my words like a preacher. Cut the crap, get the slam. Drum and bass still on the map. On the mic, you can stop me. Flat on your back like 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Here we come.
Whom do you serve, my fighting?
Back on the menu,
Don't know about you, my street life when it come to me. I never thought I'd ever think about biting the hand that fed me. Look at me now, looking for a way to get off the block. Said, look at me now. This life I'm living must stop, man. Look at me now. Think about
Remember
it
when you heard it first.
every day. Look at me now.
It's the best kept secret. Radio.
Don't know about you, my nigga, but the streets been good to me. Even took a whole lot of bullshit, but it made me a stronger G. Don't know nothing else but good street life when it come to me. I never thought I'd ever think about biting the hand that fed me.
Big shout out SRC, Universal, Shady Records.
This life I'm living must stop, man. Look at me now. Think about it each and every day. Look at me now. Just look at me now.
Obi Trice.
Real name, no gimmicks. I came in the game, profane, no image. I came in the game with a name I was given from a man who ain't give a fuck about his chitlin'. I proclaim the name, though, never in vain, no. Watch the change grow. A young nigga who done gained from fame. Cop the Range Road. Now they want my brains on the main road. But they don't understand what I came for, how I came for.
Making the little videos with all the little lies, all the little bullshit. And every once in a while, every so often, the Sultan, the Emir, the Khan, Haz al-Din has to walk into the building and humble these motherfuckers. JT Chapman, Hakeem, you go Pink. I see you. I see you. Trying to call me irrelevant. Think I'm irrelevant. Oh, we're gonna make a critique of it. We're gonna make a goddamn critique of it. We're gonna make a critique of it. Because we're Maoists. Let me see some fucking sun gorillas in the chat. Let me see some fucking sun gorillas in the chat. Show them that we're Maoists. Show them that we're Maoists. Let's go, trooper. Straight trooping. Let me see those sun gorillas. Let's troop in the building. Let's show JT that we're trooping. We're trooping. We're the guerrilla army. The most feared, the most reviled, the most infamous online political community on the goddamn internet. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. They fear us and they fear our name. They block each and every one of you on Twitter. Why? Because we go hard. We go hard because we're trooping like gorillas, like a guerrilla troop. We're trooping like gorillas, waging guerrilla warfare. Trooping like gorillas, waging guerrilla warfare against all the fakes, the frauds, the punk-ass bitches trying to talk about, I'm a leftist, this is Marxism. Fuck that liberal bullshit. We don't give a fuck about any liberals. Fuck the DSA. Fuck the PSL. Fuck the leadership of the Communist Party. We are straight communists with a goddamn capital C. 100% Stalinist. 100% Maoist. 24/7. 7 days out the week. And we don't sleep on it even once. We don't hesitate and we don't flinch. When people ask us what we think about a certain country that neighbored Vietnam in the 1970s, we know exactly what we're saying. When people ask us about Stalin, when people ask us about Mao, we know exactly what we're saying. We are communists with a capital C. We got nothing to apologize for. Why? Because we're trooping like gorillas. All these fake-ass, fraudulent pieces of shit are now coming out of the woodwork saying, oh, I like Stalin, I'm a Marxist-Leninist. No, you're not, you fake-ass bitch. You were scared to call yourself that before Infrared started putting the pressure on you. Started putting the pressure on you. We applied the pressure, and out came the worms from the woodwork. Fake-ass bitches trying to rep our shit, trying to rep shit they were never repping before you. Democratic socialist bitches are now all communists and Marxist-Leninists. No, you're not. You a fake bitch. You a fake bitch, and you're trying to pass off your liberalism as Marxism-Leninism. Now, Ha's got to come through. Ha's got to come through. The leader of the guerrilla army, I gotta come through. I gotta walk through in my big suit. I'm wearing a big suit. Giant shoulder, big ass suit. I'm walking in the building. I'm walking in the building. You gotta imagine my swagger. I'm walking in the building with my giant ass suit, with my troops behind me, with my guerrillas behind me. And we're straight trooping. We're straight trooping. We're straight trooping. We're walking in formation, marching in formation. I'm walking in the goddamn building, and I'm setting the goddamn record straight. I'm not letting these motherfuckers get away with that. You want to rep our shit? We're going to be trooping. We're going to be trooping. We're trooping in the building, all right? We're trooping in the building. All the gorillas walk like this in real life. All the gorillas walk like this in real life. Y'all know how to walk. This is how we walk. We walk like this. We walk like this. You understand? That's how we walk. We walk like this. We're trooping. We're trooping in the building. We don't do this shit. We don't. This is how the Hakeem people walk. Ready? I'm gonna teach you. Thank you so much, Amir. I appreciate you.
Us, please watch The Wolf in the Moonlight.
This is how liberals walk. This is how the liberals. This is how the Hakeem fans. This is how the Second Thought fans. This is how all these fucking DSA people walk. Ready? That's how they walk. But I'm in the building. I'm walking in the building. In the DSA convention. In the CPUSA convention. In the Second Thought convention. In the Hakeem convention. I'm walking in that shit. I'm walking in that shit. My big ass suit on. I got a giant ass, wide shouldered ass suit walking. And I'm trooping. All my gorillas behind me. We're trooping. We're trooping in that building. You understand? We're trooping in that. Y'all walking behind me in formation. And we're trooping. We're rolling through because we're Maoists. We're rolling through because we're Maoists, and we're about to make a critique of it. You understand? We're rolling through as Maoists, ready to make a goddamn critique of it. Walking in the building, make a critique of it. You understand? Thank you so much, Amerigo. I forgot to thank you, by the way. Walking in the building, making a critique of it. Troops in formation. All right? So it's just one of those days. It's just one of those bad days. JT Chapman and Second Thought, they wake up. This dude's sleeping. His alarm waking up. Oh, shit. Haas, the Punisher, is going to make a critique of it. Now, he's got two choices. He can either respond and get sucked into the wormhole that is infrared. He can respond and put his whole career on the line, right? Facing the wrath of Haas, because that's a battle he would not win. Or he can shut his little bitch ass up and he's going to ignore it. And he can ignore it, right? That's what he's going to do. He's going to ignore it. Good. That good on you. He's going to ignore it, right? Because nobody wants to respond to Haas. Nobody wants to get roped in to this guerrilla army. You know what I'm saying? Because we're trooping out here. Nobody wants to. No, when you see us walking in formation, nobody wants to come and get in the way. Not a single person, right? Nobody sees this shit and wants to come here and get in our way and obstruct this march that's going on. Why? Because we don't fuck around. Why? Because we're Maoists. Why? Because we're making a critique of it. That's why. Nobody wants to hear the critique, but we're going to give it to them anyway.
Walking confidently with shoulders back, chest out, and chin up like a man should.
Exactly. Again, I'm going to show you the mandatory guerrilla army walk. All right? I'm going to show you. This is how you got to walk all the time. Like that. That's how you got to walk. All right? You got to walk like this. You got to walk like that. All right? Just like a gorilla. You got to walk in formation. You know what I mean? Like a gorilla. That's how we do it. That's how the DSA walks like this. That's how they walk. We don't walk like that, right? We don't play it like that. This is the guerrilla army, you understand? We're trooping. Guerrilla trooping. Thank you so much, Amila.
When is the debate with Keffels happening?
Okay, I'm going to talk about that. Thank you so much, Arwell. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Thank you so much, Arwell.
As a vet, I'm set to be marching with the troops. USA 07.
Thank you so much, Arwell. Appreciate you, Arwell. Let me tell you guys something. I don't know what the fuck's going on with that whole Keffels thing. They were probably trolling or joking or some shit. They were like, oh yeah, I want you to come on the show and debate Stalin or some shit. And then one of you guys, one of the troops, right, was like, okay, debate Haas. And then they were like, oh, have him DM me. And I'm not interested in unblocking. Now, why do I have them blocked on Twitter? I do have them blocked. I got them blocked on Twitter because I don't want to deal with that. I want to deal with that. I'm not going to say anything more. I don't want to deal with it, right? It's as simple as that, right? But I block leftists, you know what I mean? That's that kind of thing. And I'm not interested in DMing nothing, you know. So I said, you want to debate? Come into the Discord, go into the show requests, and we can arrange a time. I will be happy to debate you on Stalin. I want a clean, professional debate about Stalin. We can go through the record. Did Stalin commit the crimes that you're saying he committed? Maybe we have to debate it on Rumble. That's fine. Is Stalin guilty of the things you say he is? And I'm willing to go through that whole thing. Simple, clean, professional debate. So they were like, thank you so much, East.
I'm a developer and I have some free time. I can help with the decentralized infrared Maoist platform. Send a message on Discord if you need.
Yeah, I might get in touch. I might just take you up on that. But anyway, with the whole Keffels thing, they were like, okay, I'll debate you if you send a fruit basket to my house and do 80 push-ups for me. Dude, why are you imposing conditions? I thought you're the one who wanted the fucking debate, right? I'm not desperate to debate it, you know. Would it be, am I willing to debate it? Yeah, I will debate anyone on the line of Stalin. I will debate anyone on the record, right? Anyone, not just Keffels. They're the ones who wanted to debate. I'm saying I will debate, right? And then they're saying, oh, there's all these new conditions. Okay, so you're clearly not serious about it, right? So my assumption is that it's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Right? I don't think it's going to happen. Simple as that, right? Simple as that. I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does, I want it to happen. I hope it could happen. I will be here to try and make sure it happens to the furthest extent of my ability, right? If it can happen. But I'm not going to waste time on somebody who's not serious about it. The issue of Stalin is a serious issue. We don't play around with that shit. It's a serious issue. Be professional. We are Stalinists. We rep the Stalin demeanor and stature. Thanks so much,
Maoism.
Stalin is not. Thank you so much, flying. Stalin is nothing to fuck with. You know what I mean? It's a serious topic. It deserves a seriousness when you're going to be debating that topic. They didn't want to debate. They're not serious about it. Okay, I am a serious, hardcore Stalinist. I am a Stalinist. I follow the line of Stalin. I follow the example of Stalin. I am a fucking Stalinist. If I didn't think it was haram to get tattoos, I'd have a tattoo of Stalin, tattoo of Mao. I'd have Mao, Stalin tattoos on each fucking shoulder, man. You know what I mean? I'd get a giant Stalin tattoo on my back. I am a Stalinist. I follow the line of Stalin. Thank you so much, Destiny Scrag Dealer. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Y'all see this setup? This is all Stalinism, man. This is a Stalinist tiger. That's a Stalinist sword. That's a Stalinist dragon. It's a Stalinist carpet. I am a Stalinist. It is what I am. I take it seriously. I will debate it any day of the week. Under no circumstances am I rejecting any kind of debate when it comes to that, period, right? But they don't want to debate. Whatever. What can I do? What can I say? I can't do anything about it. I can't do nothing about it. Especially people like Second Thought. Would that person ever debate me? No, because they're going to say, oh, that's just debate bro shit. I don't believe in debate. They say they don't believe in debate. They say they don't believe in debate and they don't want to debate. But it's one thing to say I don't want to do a formal debate. It's another thing to completely deny the serious questions raised before you. You can't answer for them. So how else can we confront you with these serious matters except through a debate? You're denying reality. That's what you're fucking doing. You're denying the fact there is a problem. You're denying the fact there are serious criticisms of you that carry objective and material weight, and you dodge those criticisms in the name of not wanting to be a debate bro. And every time you try to address the criticism, such as the whole fiasco straw man about Pat Socks a year ago, it's off the mark. You're not even addressing what we're saying. You're not even addressing the actual criticisms we're leveling before you. You're just saying some shit about, oh, the patriotism of the oppressed is different than that of the oppressors. But you're not actually addressing what we're saying, right? You've never done that, not once. And one of the reasons I'm taking time to address this particular matter is because I think the Pat Sock, I hate that word. We're not bringing that word back, but that discourse has been brought back on Twitter. And the reason is because there's like these Marxist-Leninists, quote unquote, the dogmatic ones even, and they're like, wait a second, it's just like basic orthodoxy that you have to be patriotic. That's part of what Marxism-Leninism is. It's rooted in patriotism. And they're trying to overhaul that, and they're basically trying to do a color revolution against orthodox Marxism-Leninism in the West. I am not necessarily an orthodox Western Marxist-Leninist. I've never claimed to be one. I think that Western Marxism-Leninism has been very dogmatic. And yeah, I agree, it needs to reevaluate a lot of things. But there's never been a dispute that even Western Orthodox Marxism-Leninism always been about patriotism. You look at the Communist Party of Greece, the best example of the most dogmatic Western Marxist-Leninist party in the West, period, right? Of course they're patriots in Greece. They say, yeah, we're Greek patriots. It's not even a question. If some Greek guy told these Greek communists, hey, I don't want to be a patriot because I believe in everyone belonging to the same community, they'd be like, you're a fucking cosmopolitan, right? And they say, oh, it's anti-Semitic. No, it's not. It's liberal cosmopolitanism. It's always been derided in basic Orthodox Marxist-Leninist literature. These people are so fucking illiterate, they don't even know the baseline. This is like, it's never been under dispute, right? Okay, so recently, there's been some changes. There's been this Jay Sakai, I don't fucking know, there's been this new neo-post-Maoist anarcho-decolonial theory. Thank you so much, Dementor.
We are capital Z Stalinists.
Don't even shoot the messenger. I'm not necessarily a Western Orthodox Marxist-Leninist. Thank you so much, Rocksoft.
I have seen the future. Mao-style zoot suits guerrilla trooping into CPUSA headquarters circa
That's exactly
2036.
a vibe. That's exactly a vibe. But I'm not necessarily somebody who's thank you so much, Rockstar. Appreciate you, man. I'm not necessarily. I mean, I draw a lot from Dugan. I draw a lot from Nick Land. I draw from Heidegger. I mean, I'm engaging Georgia Bataille and Alexander Kojev, and it's kind of the Western canon of 20th century thought. I'm a very heterodox. I'm like a Marxist-Leninist who wants to talk about thermodynamics, right? I want to talk about modern physics and stuff. I'm a Lacanian. I'm not really your bread and butter orthodox Western Marxist-Leninist. I've never claimed to be, right? But it's just I have to be the messenger and be like, okay, but orthodox Western Marxism-Leninism has always been patriotic. That's like not, it's never been in dispute. And it doesn't matter if you're in an oppressor country or not. You're still fundamentally rooting yourself in the national form of the country you live in. So even if you take an anti-imperialist position, which all Marxist-Leninists do, that's still rooted from the perspective of this is our patriotic duty to be anti-imperialist. Like, we must be anti-imperialist in the name of the American people to defend the honor of our country, yada yada. I mean, that's like basic Marxism-Leninism. There's never been this empty internationalism devoid of formal specificity. That is not something that's Marxist-Leninist. That's liberal cosmopolitanism. And at best, it's a form of ultra-left, anarchistic, or Trotskyistic infantilism. But it's not something that's Marxist. It's never been in dispute. Every iteration of the Communist Party USA, even including the current one, if you ask the leadership behind closed doors, yeah, of course you have to be patriotic. That's like a basic. Thank you so much, Urban Savage. So we're gonna get in deep dive, second thoughts, stupid fucking video. But what do you think of the modern Russian Communist Party? That's my model party. I want to have a KPRF be the leader of all Western communist parties. The way I see it, there's two hegemons. Either the Greek Communist Party or the Communist Party of the Russian Federation. I want us to follow the Communist Party of the Russian Federation, not the Communist Party of Greece. So that's my view on that, right? That's my objective, sincere view when it comes to that, right? But I'm a big fan of the KPRF, needless to say, right? That's probably my favorite communist party in the world, besides the Communist Party of China. But you can't have communism without patriotism. Ask any communist in the world, it's a truism. And no, that's not just because they're not in an imperialist state, because Germany, Hungary, and Romania actually participated in the invasion of the Soviet Union, and under communist rule, patriotism was just common sense. It was never questioned. Germany was not an oppressed victim. Germany was not a victim of colonialism. Germany was not like some third world POC country. It was Nazi Germany, okay? And after they got rid of the Nazis, they were still patriots. Thank you so much, old man. So that's very simple. They've always been patriots. Always been patriots. What do I think of Ataturk? Ataturk. It's complicated business. It's complicated business. I'm against the three pashas during World War I. World War I was an imperialist war. And the three pashas seem to have been, ops, basically. But as far as Ataturk is concerned, it's a mixed bag. I don't think he's the same as the three pashas. He also denounced the three pashas. But it's an objective fact that Ataturk waged a war of national liberation against Britain and against other foreign powers. And who cannot commend him for this, right? Who cannot commend him just for this? I mean, the Bolsheviks supported him in his effort. So it's a mixed bag, right? It's up to the people of Turkey to decide that legacy. It's not something, I'm not one who calls him a devil or an angel. It's Turkey's business. But I do admire the war of liberation against the British, of course, right? And against the colonial powers. Anyway. We are dealing with an issue where you have these people like Second Thought who are either unfamiliar with the orthodox Marxist-Leninist canon or they are being deliberately dishonest. But I want to first, before I dive into his video, I want to address, I've done this like a million times, but I keep having to do this. So there's one cope that they use. There's one cope that all of these, we call them red libs, because they're red liberals is what they are, right? But there is one specific form of cope to deal with the cognitive dissonance, like that they're just objectively completely removed from the history of Marxism-Leninism, right? But this specific one comes from Stalin's Marxism and the National Question, right? And this is the one they always use to try and make it seem like patriotism is incompatible with Marxism, and this is somehow something Stalin believed, and it's always been a truism in Marxism, and that we, the Patsocks, are coming here and changing things up and revising things. So just to show you the specific quote that JT Chapman and other red libs love quoting all the time. And by the way, this is in spite of all the other quotes. When we throw at them direct textual evidence of the contrary, they say we're book worshippers. But for them, this is all it takes. So, okay. All right, here it is. All right. So it's something like here. Whether the proletariat rallies to the banner of bourgeois nationalism depends on the degree of the development of class antagonisms, of the class consciousness and degree of organization. The class-conscious proletariat has its own tried banner and does not need to rally to the banner of the bourgeoisie. And sometimes this is translated as the national banner of the bourgeoisie. So they take this to be a direct quotation, to mean the national banner of the bourgeoisie is in like the literal flag. So they use this quote to say communists should never use the flag of their country because that's the national banner of the bourgeoisie. Okay, well, you need to come to a few conclusions then. In the post-war period, you have to adopt the view that Stalin viewed the post-war communist states, which kept the basic flag designs of their respective nations, even while they were communist, to be bourgeois states. Well, it wasn't Stalin's view. These were proletarian dictatorships. These were people's democracies. They were not bourgeois states, according to Stalin. So either Stalin revised his view, or they're misinterpreting what he's saying. Well, how can we determine whether they're misinterpreting what they're saying, right? I'll give you guys a hint. We actually fucking read the book. Read the book, not the sentence, and you'll see what he means. The bourgeoisie of the oppressed nation, repressed on every hand, is naturally stirred into movement. It appeals to the native folk and begins to shout about the fatherland, claiming that its own cause is the cause of the nation as a whole. It recruits itself an army from its countrymen in the interest of the fatherland. Nor do the folk always remain unresponsive. It appeals, they rally around its banner. The repression from above affects them too and provokes their discontent. The national movement begins.
Based.
Thank you so much,
There is
Urban
absolutely
Savage.
nothing in Marxism that requires or suggests that one must be against his own country/people.
Yeah, thank you so much, Urban. As far as the peasants are concerned, their participation in the national movement primarily on the character of the repressions. If the repressions affect the land, as was the case in Ireland, then the mass of peasants immediately rally to the banner of the national movement. Now, what was the slogan of the October Revolution? Peace, land, and bread. Clearly, this was also a national revolution as well. It was what Lenin would call the joint dictatorship, the joint democratic dictatorship of the proletariat and the peasantry. By the way, here. Actually, sorry, this is the actual quote right here. Then this is why the proletariat cannot rally to the national flag of the bourgeoisie. So they're not actually talking about, first of all, they're not talking either about, he's not talking about patriotism broadly. he's neither talking about actual national flags. He's talking about the slogan of the national movement, which, according to Stalin, fans this national movement struggle beyond what is necessary for the conditions of the liberation, or the emancipation of the proletariat in the form of the class struggle. So, okay, long story short, they want to prolong it over, and by prolong, he means beyond what is necessary. But that doesn't mean there isn't something necessary. Look at this. Social democracy. This is when Stalin, by the way, was a social democrat. And he was critiquing Austro-Marxism and the Bruno Bauer's institutional bourgeois nationalism. So you have to understand that context. If you don't get that context, you're going to think he's talking about every form of national feeling and national reality in general, which is not true, right? Social democracy in all countries proclaims the right to self-determination. It'll uphold the right of a nation to determine its own destiny. So this is the bare minimum he's talking about, necessary for the conditions of the class struggle. Remember, this is not necessarily Leninism yet. This is orthodox social democracy. Stalin is saying something that Karl Kautsky at this time would not disagree with. Thank you so much, Voidburn.
This disagreement has been completely exhausted, with the red libs already being defeated. They're either incompetent, ignorant, or liars at this point.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Voidburn. This is not even different from Kautsky here, right? This is just basic orthodox social democracy. The national movement should confine itself to the fight for self-determination, right? Or the peasant question, the land question. That's what people ignore, because it's not just about affirmative action. Oh, the oppressed POC nations can be patriotic, but the white ones can't because they're oppressors. Well, no, because oppression is not the only dimension or context within which the national movement is a necessary prerequisite for the class struggle. You also have the question of the land question and the retention of older feudal forms. Remember, nationalism has its origins in the French Revolution, not in liberation from colonial powers, but in the French Revolution, which was the liberation of the French people from their own feudal context, right? And that's what creates the whole national unified identity in the first place. Anyway, this is all crystal clear. We've already exhausted and he's talking to Bruno Bauer. He's talking about Bruno Bauer. He's not fucking talking about anything else. He's not talking about MAGA communism or anything, or Pat Socks. He's talking about Bruno Bauer's. Like, this would be like him talking about the DSA, which is an institutional socialism. It's a form of opportunism to the prevailing institutions of the nation, the bourgeois democratic institutions that already exist. That's such an essential context to understand what he's even trying to say here, right? Regardless, we've already settled the debate when it came to quotations and stuff, but this specific sentence in Marxism and the National Question, go on Twitter and you will find like at least 3 dozen instances of people just screenshotting this sentence and getting like 10,000 likes saying, oh, Stalin disagrees with Pat Socks. No, there's nothing in that context that speaks to the more broader question of whether or not like all Marxism-Leninism is ultimately patriotic. That was never under any dispute. Especially not, by the way, by the time that Stalin is concretely dealing with the question in the form of the Popular Front era in the late 1930s and in the post-war period in the era of the people's democracies. Then, I mean, there's no room for dispute. There's absolutely no room for dispute. Stalin's last speech, I'll just give you one last thing. Okay, so All right, I mean, this is pretty clear cut, right? Because even if we agreed with the context of that sentence from 1913, I mean, this is the last thing Stalin ever said, and it was in 1952. So as far as what Stalin, and maybe Stalin became a revisionist or something, but here's what Stalin said. The bourgeoisie as the heads of nation were for the rights and independence of nations, but above all. Now there's no trace of this national principle. Now the bourgeoisie sells the rights and independence of their nations for dollars. The banner of national independence and national sovereignty has been thrown overboard. Without doubt, you, the representatives of the communist and democratic parties, must raise this banner and carry it forward if you want to be the patriots of your countries, if you want to be the leading power of the nations. There is no one else to raise it. So, is there any room for... See, with this stuff about the quote, the national movement, there's a lot of room for interpretation. How do we know what Stalin meant? Well, here's him directly giving a positive association to the word patriotism, saying only communists can be patriots. There's no one else to raise the banner of patriotism but communists. That's what Stalin directly says. Thank you so much, Chris Morlock. Appreciate you.
Bauer also talked about cultural economy, which is clearly what leftists traffic in constantly under the guise of fake internationalism.
Exactly. Chris Morlock raised an important point. Thank you so much.
Hayes read Gerald Horne. We can't be patriots. Clearly Navi Wakanda was going to be established until Voldemort Washington, his Sith Lords, and Uruk-hai militias defeated King Aragorn of Britain, who was progressive.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hot Take. And they literally believe that, by the way. But Chris Morlock brings up a good point, which is that, you know, the bourgeoisie, today's affirmative action left when it comes to, you know, identity politics and, oh, this person must be speaking because this is a queer, disabled Latinx. I mean, like, that is more in common with Bruno Bauer's idea of national cultural autonomy, which is an institutionalized form of national identity and cultural identity. If anything is bearing the legacy of the national cultural identity or the national movement Stalin was critiquing in his Marxism and the National Question, I dare anyone to try and argue with me about this. It's unironically today's leftist identity politics. Today's leftist identity politics, whether it's LGBT, whether it's based on race, whether it's based on being a woman or a man, that is a direct inheritance of Bruno Bauer's institutionalized social democratic, you know, culture, bourgeois national movement. Because the national movement isn't about the blood and soil of the nation. That's not even something it's not even under consideration for anyone at this time in 1913. It's not relevant, right? The national is a stand-in for the specific form, the specific institutions of the state. Specific institution, right? As far as Bruno Bauer's national movement is concerned. So the key thing is not that it's national, it's that it's an institutionalized way of giving people identity and commonality through the bourgeois institution of the state, right? So we've settled I'm just giving you a recap of a debate that's already happened. There's really no way to... there's nothing else that really needs to be said right now. We're gonna react to the video together, but I just want to give you guys the broader context, and I can show you one more thing if you want. So a lot of people think the Soviet kind of anti-cosmopolitan sentiment was just anti-Semitism, and it wasn't. Because they defined it pretty clearly.
They hate all the conclusions Stalin came to after 30 years of cultivating socialism. They hate wisdom. Same reason why they hate his work Economic Problems of Socialism in the USSR so much.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Soapbox. So this is something that was written in 1949, and it was written by a Yugoslav, but this was while they were Stalinist. So this was a Stalinist, right? During the consultations held with the Central Committee, Zhdanov said he cannot be an internationalist who does not love and respect his own people. And maybe second thought is being, okay, I broadly agree with that. But now look what he says. A bitter struggle is now being pursued in the Soviet Union under this slogan against bourgeois cosmopolitanism in art, philosophy, and science. In the editorial already quoted in number 2 of the Vопроsi Philosophie, cosmopolitanism is defined as follows. Cosmopolitanism is a reactionary ideology which preaches renunciation of national traditions, disparagement of national individuality in the development of different peoples, rejections of feelings of national honor and national pride. Man, he doesn't directly use the word patriotism, so I guess he's not talking about patriotism. Well, what about here? Chernyshevsky and Dobrolyubov ridiculed what is called the patriotic aesthetics of their time, which saw in Russian literature the height of world literature. They proclaimed that genuine patriotism, the culture of his time, to see at the same time the advantages of the foreign culture over one's own, and yet be able to embrace one's own even more closely, is not false patriotism or narrow-minded bias. It is but a noble and inevitable endeavor to know thyself. These are the words of a real patriot and internationalist. So the verdict, the jury is out. I just pulled this up from Google. If you're like, why specifically this, Haas? Because I was just fucking using Google at the last minute for the stream. Just to show you. I'm just picking out basic Marxist... I mean, there's so many examples. This is just the one I just picked out in 2 seconds from Google, right? Yes. Patriotism is not rooted in the inequality of, oh, my race or my nation is oppressed. Do I have to be temporarily patriotic before I can be an enlightened white, leftist like you? I mean, no, patriotism is a fundamental fact of communism. This is not ever anything in dispute in the entire history of actually existing socialism. And even something across the Sino-Soviet split. The Chinese, the Russians, North Korea, Vietnam, Cambodia under Pol Pot, everyone fucking agrees communism is patriotic and is about patriotism. It's never been under dispute. The only fucking people who dispute this are anarchists, left comms. I mean, I'm not even sure if Trotsky would dispute it. I mean, yeah, he kind of did. Yeah, I guess Trotsky did. So Trotskyism, left comms, and anarchists, who only exist in the West, by the way, are the only fucking people to ever dispute this, right? So it's never something that was in dispute. But here's Second Thought, who just released a video. And Second Thought is someone who pretends to be a Marxist-Leninist and more broadly pretends to be a Marxist. And they decided to make a video called, let me show this to you. Why is American patriotism so weird? Now, here's what I find baffling about the idea of making this video. Second Thought is a person, first of all, who lives in America. So how are you taking a step? What community are you basing yourself in? What is your position of enunciation? What is American patriotism so weird compared to what? Compared to the cosmopolitan internet where we're all part of one community? I'm sorry, but that's just bourgeois cosmopolitanism. You don't have a position of enunciation that is not national in form. There's no such thing. Marxist internationalism is about determinate relations cultivated between different peoples. It's not about individuals abstracting themselves from their countries or their nations, saying, oh, why is American patriotism so weird? Compared to what? Compared to what? Do you think there's like a cosmopolitan community that is devoid of any national character? Well, yeah, there is. It's called the bourgeoisie, right? We called globalism, and it was routinely denounced in the Soviet Union. It was routinely denounced in almost all communist states. This idea that communities can somehow be formed based on this vague sense of globality and oh, we're all part of one shared human community that is not somehow based in a diversity of different peoples rather than just individuals. Like, for example, Xi Jinping uses the idea of a shared destiny of mankind. But in no way is that incompatible with Chinese patriotism for Xi, right? When she says a shared destiny for mankind, he's talking about different sovereign nations and different countries forming relations with each other for the sake of mankind as a whole. That's a great thing. We're not against that. But this idea that you can somehow abstract yourself from the national context of your country and be participate in this cosmopolitan community that has no roots, has no basis in anything determinate or concrete. I'm sorry, but this is liberalism, and there's no way around this. You can have this opinion, fine. Just stop clouding it in the language of Marxism. Stop trying to pass this off as somehow compatible with Marxism. It's not. I mean, it's not even philosophically compatible with Marxism. Marxism believes that every universality has a determinate form. That's basic dialectical logic. Every pretense to the universal is based in a determinate particular form. And the only way to be a consistent internationalist is to engage in determinate relations between different peoples. And through these relations, maybe some new, higher, sublated form can emerge out of that. Maybe, right? But you don't begin from a position of abstract universality according to which, oh, why do we even care about patriotism? Patriotism doesn't even matter. No, it does fucking matter, because that is still the form of the humanity you're dwelling in. There's no indeterminate humanity, formless humanity. Humanity takes different forms. All patriotism means is a basic commitment to the form of humanity, the form of a human community that you're beginning from, right? There's no context to communist politics outside of this. This has never been under any dispute, according to basic Marxist-Leninist orthodoxy. It's never been under dispute. So before I even watched this video, he already got BTFO'd, right? But I just want to specifically draw to some of the things he says, because he's trying to say American patriotism is so weird. Well, what do you mean it's weird?
Like it are brought to you by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to help support this channel, join our patrons-only Discord, and get early access to every video, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought. To a non-American, driving down roads lined with American flags, past people dressed like this, past fields where, hand on heart, Americans sing along to the national anthem for even the most forgotten Little League game, and past bars where a USA chant is on a hair.
So I kind of am trying to parse out where he's coming from here. And I'm like, oh, you know what he's talking about, guys? He's talking about compared to Europe. So compared to the European Union, which is a bourgeois, cosmopolitan, Hitlerite political bloc, I guess this is weird compared to these enlightened Europeans, right? Sorry, JT, that we're not enlightened Europeans. But Russian patriots admire this. Chinese patriots admire this. They do it in their own countries, right? China, they do the same shit. The Chinese flags everywhere. And yeah, yes, China, yes, China. Yes, that's what they fucking do, dude. Every healthy country has this attitude, period. By the way, America's patriotism, if anything, it's very superficial. The more it's not rule, right? When you go to like some hipster brew place in there, I mean, dude, this is not. What is this even representing here? This is just a bunch of young professionals at a bar. That's not where it's coming from, dude. Where this is coming from is the flyover America. Of course they're going to be deeply patriotic. That is their common humanity. That's their commons, right? It's just an individualistic mentality. Like, oh, Americans are excessively patriotic. We're really not, though, right? Half of America is very patriotic. The other half is not particularly. I mean, you're comparing us to Europe. You're not comparing us to. My small hometown in China has streets lined with flags. I wonder if he finds that weird. He probably does, right? Probably does. Yeah, look at North Korea. You don't think they're fucking patriotic? It's like, this isn't weird at all, dude. They're waving the flag that Dude, because a people do not represent themselves by representing themselves as an individual. A people represent themselves by representing the form of their humanity. And that form, yes, is national. It's based in a country. This is communist common sense. But if you're an individualistic liberal, you're going to be mad that people are not premising their collective identity based on some kind of contrived theoretical consciousness. As if class consciousness or the proletarian identity is somehow comparable to the national form that gives it context. You can't oppose the proletarian solidarity with national form, right? Because according to the Communist Manifesto itself, class struggle takes national form. That is the very context within which class struggle occurs. In other words, class struggle is not about repping the American flag versus repping a flag that second thought considers less offensive. It's about a fight over the American flag. Class struggle happens when there's a dispute about what the American flag means, right? The coastal elites look at the American flag and they go, this is just like Hamilton the musical. This embodies the ideals of enlightened liberals leading the way and Lady Liberty ensuring all of the rights of all of the marginalized, whatever, right? They're going to have their own fucking spin on it. The Washington, D.C. Patriots, you know, oh yes, America was founded on the idea of Obama, right? That's the bourgeois, right? And then the working class looks at the American flag, and the working class will look at the American flag, and then what do they see? They see something completely different. They see the American flag represents my job, it represents my livelihood, it represents my family, it represents my father, it represents my grandfather, it represents my community, it represents my shared collective experience. That's what it represents for me. So the proletarian view on the national identity, if you want to call it an identity, is like, the American flag to me represents a concrete community of people within which I am a part. That is a primitive form of working class consciousness when you think about it, because it's just like, yeah, it's us, the working class. It's real America, the people who work with their hands, blue collar America. This is our shared destiny. It's our shared community. That's what the American flag means to them. But the American flag to a liberal in New York or a liberal in Washington, D.C. is going to be like, oh, Obama. Like that's, you know, it's the same flag, but there's like a parallax, irreducible difference as far as how it's understood. And that is a realm of class struggle, right? Thank you so much, Urban Savage.
Communism never would have succeeded anywhere if it wasn't national. It wouldn't have been accepted anywhere and would have been rejected as bourgeois liberalism.
Yeah.
The idea that it isn't patriotic is foolish
Urban
and
Savage,
ignorant.
it's even more simple than that. It's not even just that it'd be the wrong ideology. It would never have gained massive support among the peasant majority of whatever respective country communists were coming to power in. There would have been no way for it to have, like, be meaningful to them. How is that even meaningful to them, right? So, patriotism is not about an idea. It's not about a set of values. It's not really it's not an ideology. It's just embracing a specific and determinate commonality of a common history, a common language, a common reality, a common collective experience, right? Read Marxism and the National Question, by the way, if this somehow confuses you. But, I mean, dude, second thought, I'm sorry not everyone is a cosmopolitan, detached, hipster YouTuber who's just, let me put it in my, I'm just like part of the shared international community. Dude, you don't know this consciously, or maybe you do, but you're just dishonest. You stand where Dylan Burns stands. You stand where Vosh stands. You stand where NAFO stands. You want to send money to Ukraine. Now, you may not say that you do, but that's where you stand. You don't stand. You're not rooted in America proper, right? Your position of enunciation is somehow this ambiguous international community of international human rights and shared cosmopolitan values. That is where you stand. That's the reality of NATO, though. That's the reality of the World Bank, and that's the reality of the IMF. That's the reality of the CIA. It's the reality of the European Union. Yeah, sure. It's the reality of, the American Empire, pretty much. That is what the American Empire is. I have to remind you, JT Chapman, that America was never supposed to be an empire if we define an empire as just this country that is interested in going beyond the limits of its own national reality and kind of like having bases around the world and being a world police. America was never supposed to be that. I'm not just saying that on an ideal level, by the way. I don't mean that ideally. I mean that formally. Like, for example, our Constitution, even as much as our judicial system is just, completely relative, depending on the era, meaning it's not like something authentic. But there's never been a real judicial consensus according to which the Constitution could even be interpreted to mean that the sovereignty of the American state extends to this realm you're talking about, right? And yet we still objectively have an American empire. We still have a CIA that intervenes in every country in the world. We still have military bases all over the fucking world. We're still intervening in the affairs of every country. We're putting boots on the ground, invaded Iraq, and fucking with Libya. We fucked with Libya. Trying to fuck with Iran and Russia and China. Sure, but that is really beyond the form of what America is. That's beyond the political sovereignty of the American state. So, this international community that you're basing yourself in is just concretely the American empire. And although it's not based in any clear sovereign state institution, it is definitely based in global institutions. It's based in the, first of all, materially financial power of Wall Street and the City of London, aka international capital, and through them, they in turn base themselves in the oil monopolies of the Rockefellers, the Morgans, and others. And then through them, you have the civil society of globalism, the network of the open society, the think tanks, the policy-making institutions, the universities, the academic institutions, the NGOs, right? The list is endless. The media organizations, the cultural institutions. All these things are part of what you would call the international community. Also a part of the international community is big tech. YouTube, for example, JT thought. So the reason you could even make this title, Why is American Patriotism So Weird? And there might be a guy in Uruguay who watches this, is because there's one shared American internet, right? It's an arm of the American empire, where it's a part of the soft power hegemony of the American empire. Like, why is a guy in Uruguay on YouTube? YouTube is American owned. Because YouTube isn't just supposed to base itself to the extent of America's sovereignty. It's supposed to serve the hegemonic interests of the American empire in terms of projecting soft power, right? So, this is not, there isn't just a world community of, we're all, like JT is like sitting here thinking like, me and Hakeem, we're all just here. We're all just guys living in the world and we're all just part of the same community. It's like, you don't realize that community has a determinate basis in like the actual American empire. Like there is an American empire. It's not just the natural state of man, okay? It's like a specific institutional hegemony or series of various different institutional hegemonies, forms of that same hegemony, right? Whether it's the American internet and big tech, whether it's the common lingua franca derived from shared network of academic institutions, whether it's NGOs, the media, civil society, it's all part of a specific determinate superstructure. It's not just something you should take for granted is like, oh yeah, this is just the world. I'm second thought. I'm just gonna make a video for the fucking world right now. No, you're not, dude. You are an American on an American platform making a video for an audience whose attention is supposed to be retained for the purposes, ultimately, of promoting American hegemony. As much as counter-hegemonic figures like myself, Jackson Hinkle, others kind of are getting in the way of that. And that's why it's so easy. I mean, it's why Second Thought will never get banned, but I can get banned all the time, pretty much. Because I'm not aligned with that hegemony. I'm like throwing a monkey wrench in what YouTube is supposed to actually be doing. YouTube is supposed to project the soft power interests of the American empire. It's that fucking simple. I throw a monkey wrench into that. Therefore, they try to ban me, censor me, and shadow ban me as much as they fucking can. Second thought, you are fundamentally compatible with what YouTube is supposed to do. That's why you're not going to get banned, right? But it's just this fucking idea that, see, cosmopolitanism is a lie. There's no such thing as a cosmopolitan community. The international bourgeoisie is based in specific countries. I agree, America is oppressing the world. But the cosmopolitans want to make it seem like, oh yeah, it's not America oppressing the world, it's just all one global village. No, it's not. There's no equality in this global fucking village. It's one country oppressing others and oppressing the people, the working class of its own country as well, just like how the British Empire was set up. But the institutions are Anglo-Saxon. They are determinately Anglo-Saxon institutions, right? It's objectively the case. So ironically, in the name, when you critique American patriotism like this, you're just absolving yourself responsibility of waging the class struggle within America and within the American country. What you're basically doing is saying, I'm just above it all. American patriotism is weird. You're just participating in the way in which our elites are hiding the national character of their projected globalist community. There is no globalist community. There's no cosmopolitan community. Yes, it's brutal relations of domination between countries. But when you participate in that global community by denying your own national roots, you're reinforcing the soft power hegemony of the empire. Thank you so much, Clive.
They don't want us to be American patriots because they want us to be NATO patriots.
Exactly. For example, thank you so much, Clive. For example, I'm an American patriot, right? But that also makes me responsible. I have to be responsible for the way my country is trying to fuck with China, trying to fuck with the countries of the world. Of course I have to be responsible for that, right? When I talk to a Chinese person and he tells me, what your country is doing is hypocritical, wrong, unfair, whatever, I can't just be like what Vosh and Second Thought would probably say is like, oh, I agree, trust me, America sucks. I hate America too. I'm an anarchist. I hate America too. But your country's violating human rights, and I'm against the violation of human rights in my country, but you should not get away. It's like, of course I can't fucking do that. I'm an American patriot. So I have to be like, yeah, I'm an American. My country's fucking with your country. How do I justify that? I can't. All I can tell you is the people who are fucking with you are fucking with my people too. And I want to join you hand in hand in fighting them the best I can. But I agree with you basically, right? In no way can I abstract myself from my Americanness. I can't pretend to not be American. I am a fucking American. How can you pretend to be otherwise? You can't. You have to be responsible. So even when you critique America, you're just objectively benefiting actual American imperialism. Sorry, that came out wrong. When you critique American patriotism from the perspective of cosmopolitanism, you're objectively benefiting the American empire by participating in the veneer of a global cosmopolitan community that is concretely based in America's imperial hegemony. And I'm sure Second Thought and Hakeem have this idea that they're going to somehow amend or ratify American imperialism with an affirmative action. We're like, oh, I also want to be promoted on YouTube. Thank you so much, Lionel. I mean, I agree with the American empire and the whole cosmopolitan globalism stuff, but I just want indigenous people to be the face of it. That's what they're saying, right? Thank you so much, Voiceberg. Appreciate it.
You hit the nail on the head when you pointed out that it's one hegemon oppressing the world.
Yeah.
This liberal cosmopolitanism is commonly weaponized in the both sides bad rhetoric and
exactly.
the Ukraine-Russia discourse.
Ukraine-Russia's a perfect example. They go, I'm against both Russia and what NATO is doing in Ukraine. Of course, an American patriot cannot say that, because an American patriot has to take responsibility for what their country's fucking doing. And the objective fact is, how can I abstract myself from my fucking national obligations by saying both sides bad? I am part of this. I don't get it. I don't get to get away from this scot-free and be like, oh, both sides are bad. How could I fucking say that when it's my government which is responsible for the fucking war, right? I can't just fucking pretend like I have nothing to do with America. No, I do have something to fucking do with America, and I do have to fucking take a side, because I'm already taking a side. You're already taking a side either way. This is what our government is fucking doing it. If you pay taxes, they're doing it with your tax dollars. Of course you have to fucking take a side, right? But that's something only an American patriot can fucking do. Someone who acknowledges, yes, I am an American. Yes, I am interested in furthering the interests of my people as Americans, my fellow Americans. Of course, I'm living in America. I'm breathing it. I'm already responsible for America. I can't abstract myself and pretend like I'm part of some fucking global cosmopolitan community that says, oh, American patriotism is so weird. Based on what, second thought? Based on fucking what? You're already in the thick of America's imperial hegemony. You're already in the fucking thick of it. You're already a fucking American on the American fucking internet. So stop being a fucking coward and take a fucking side in this class struggle. You're either a working class patriot or you're a bourgeois cosmopolitan. Period. And yes, the bourgeois cosmopolitan. Base. Thank you so much, Chris.
Leftoids always bring up Marxism, the NQ, but never 1928's Leninism and the NQ, where Stalin limited abolishing nations exclusively to the period after the establishment of the DTP on a world scale.
No, I mean, thank you so much, Chris, but the shit he says in this video, it's so outrageously stupid, you're not even gonna fucking believe it, right? Because he says some incredibly stupid shit. It even goes beyond that, Chris Morlock. But, yeah, I get it. I get it. Oftentimes, the bourgeoisie uses patriotism as a pretext, opportunistically, for whipping up the working class to follow suit in their imperial endeavors. That's what happened in the Iraq War. And it's probably what's going to happen with the next war with China. And it's happening, for example, when it comes to Vosh being like, oh, you know what? America's like the protector of the special agendas that I can't talk about on YouTube anymore. But you know what? The flag with a lot of colors on it. Oh, I'm a patriotic American now because America's the woke empire and I'm a woke leftist, so I may as well be. Yeah, we get there's an opportunistic patriotism that's used by the bourgeoisie, but what needs to be stressed is that that is not based in any authentic national reality. Capital is borderless. Capitalism is borderless. Capitalism is not rooted in any nation. They wear the mask of nations, capitalists, I mean. They wear the mask of nations to get people on board with the agenda based in the British Empire. But that's not like based on any authentic working class national sentiment. It's trying to disguise itself in that sentiment to dupe working people into supporting the endeavors of the imperialist state, right? Again, this is like basic Marxist-Leninist orthodoxy. And by the way, it's not to say Stalin ever advocated for abolishing nations. He just predicted nations would probably become superfluous in some way very far into the future. But it has no concrete relevance here and now, right? Anyway, I'm just so sick of this posturing, right? Second thought, oh, why is American patriotism so weird? Dude, you are a fucking American. You're not one of those good Americans. You are a fucking American, so start taking responsibility for it. You're not part of some shared international community. You're part of the American community. Stop pretending like you're not part of this, or you're somehow outside of this. Or you're going to sit here and say, oh, I want to just destroy my own country. It's just an anarchistic, anti-social stance. What are you telling American workers? What are you telling them? I want to destroy you? No, I just want, instead of waving American flags, I want you to wave Second Thought's flag. Who the fuck are you, dude? Are you going to be the founding father of a new country, Second Thought? You're not. You don't offer an alternative to... The proletarian class struggle is not an alternative to the form in which that very same class struggle takes place. You can't just be like, yeah, I want a formless proletarian ideology in the stead of American patriotism. Dude, that's not a real thing. One is a real existing material reality, basically, like a concrete community of shared experience. The other is the pretense to a collectively shared experience, which still has to be proven concretely, and you're not doing that by saying that we should form a proletarian identity from scratch. It's not how it works. Proletarian consciousness doesn't emerge like what Lukács tries to say when workers start to define themselves solely based on the collective institutional consciousness of themselves, according to some like universal criterion. Proletarian consciousness begins when the working class becomes aware of its own reality. Notwithstanding the fact that that reality, of course, takes national form. That's never been under dispute. It's like the reality that workers are becoming self-conscious of takes national form. There's no way to proletarian consciousness if you cannot somehow be cognizant of that fact. Because you would not actually... Put it this way. Proletarian consciousness is a form of self-consciousness. It's not a pretense to a new identity. It's a pretense to a real existing one. So when you're saying proletarian consciousness, you're not saying, oh, I want you to conform to my theoretical consciousness. It's saying, I want you to be aware of your own reality as a class. The determinate reality, by the way. Your own determinate reality as a class. Not the abstract reality of my theory, but the actual existing. Like, there is a working class. It does have its own reality opposed to the bourgeoisie. It does have its own interests. Those interests are national in form, right? Because think about it. When we say American patriotism, we're not calling for workers to be loyal to any political institution. We're not telling them to be loyal to the fucking government. We're not telling them to be loyal to any like political institution of the state. We are just taking up the banner, right, of their shared collective experience and the form that takes. And doing that through a communist working class institution, right? We're trying to build an independent communist party. That is the institution, that's the sole political institution we're trying to make the workers loyal to. But that institution could never properly represent them and their interests if it doesn't take into account the specific and determinate national form that they belong to. I mean, how is this controversial? Again, this is basic orthodox Marxism-Leninism. It's a basic Marxist-Leninist orthodoxy. No one is saying, like, you keep referring to Lenin's polemics against the Social Democrats and the eve of the First Imperialist War. You're not aware of the fact, crucially though, that what Lenin meant by social patriotism wasn't people who acknowledged the national form of class struggle. It was people who were basically giving away the political sovereignty of the working class to the political institutions ruling them. Like, dude, they're not fucking talking about a vague sense of national pride. They're talking about where the Social Democratic Party literally is in parliament voting for war credits for the fucking political state that's already in power. Like, dude, they're not talking about the country. Social patriotism isn't referring to people who are expressing patriotic sentiment for their country vaguely. It's referring to people opportunistically expressing patriotic sentiment in the name of kissing the fucking government's ass. Dude, everything is topsy-turvy because it's really the MAGA people who are anti-government right now. They're the ones critiquing the fucking FBI. They're the ones who got in trouble for doing a certain something I can't talk about. They're the ones who are questioning the institutions of the American state in fundamental ways that will literally get you banned on YouTube if you talk about them. They're the ones positioning themselves against the actual concrete political institutions of the bourgeoisie. They're the ones who are doing it, and the organs of their soft power, like the social media, big tech, for example. Just the one that's... What about big pharma? I can't talk about that. We're not going to mention it. But, you know what I mean? That's what MAGA's doing. And you're accusing us of being the object of Lenin's scorn. No, Lenin's talking about cocksuckers who are basically submitting to the political authorities that be. That's not us, dude. That's the people who are getting on board with literally every CIA agenda that's being fucking astroed. Those are the people getting on board with all of the movements, the enlightened progressive movements that are taking over all of the countries under the dominion of the American Empire. And calling everyone who opposes these reactionaries. It's you, dude. It's not us. It's about are you loyal to the political power of the bourgeoisie? Not as a theoretical abstraction, the actually existing one. They're not talking about the bourgeoisie as like, oh, the people who want this society. No, they're talking about this actual fucking group in power. The bourgeoisie. Like, it's an actual one. It's the real, not a theory. It's like the real one, right? Why is this so fucking controversial? I don't get it, right? See, like, Second Thought gets 200,000 views on this video. 200,000 views. And it's like nobody raises this problem except me, right?
Trigger is all very strange. Every Ford commercial in this country is about how the US is sick as hell. Every bald eagle is swole.
Yeah, Ford has to sell products. Ford sells products by appealing to people's sentiments. The burden of proof is still on you to show us how those sentiments have been shaped by Ford rather than sentiments that are deeply rooted in people's material reality.
Every beer is a gun. And a kid just pledging allegiance to the flag is a heartwarming story on national television. In no other country in the
Thank you so much, ...
When a red lip says comrade, it's exactly the same as when they say folks. They are people unified only by their inability to engage in real relationships within their nation, community, and even family.
No, really, for real.
The world, is there such a widespread emotional attachment to the symbols of a bureaucratic government structure?
No, these aren't the symbols of a bureaucratic government structure. Again, they are the symbols of a shared community, a shared historical experience, and a shared reality. If you don't understand this, you don't understand the first thing about what the American working class is in this country.
It's incredible.
And by the way, it's not true. What did he say? In no other country.
Flag is a heartwarming story on national television. In no other country in the world is there such a widespread emotional attachment to the...
No, in almost every... He said, in no other country in the world is there such a widespread attachment to the symbols of the nation and the country. How many of you believe that? So nobody pointed out that this is just like an outrageously stupid thing to say. How can you say this with any self? Do you know anything about other countries? Thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate you.
Companies sell to people. The government is bypassing the people. How they miss this.
Dude, India has like the biggest bot army on the internet. And it's just for Indian national pride, nothing else. The biggest one on the internet. You can't even talk about fucking... You can't even talk about... Who's Wednesday Adam? What's her name? Jenna Ortega. You can't even talk about Jenna Ortega without Indian flag armies coming to talk about fucking Indian pride or something. You can't even talk about fucking... what's some other random shit? You can't even talk about Ariana Grande. Literally, there'll be a tweet be like, I stan Ariana Grande. And there'll be like thousands of fucking replies of Indian flags saying, I don't know, right? India's superpower 2050 or something. Like, dude, that's just India, right? But it's like, dude, you have no idea how the world is.
The symbols of a bureaucratic government structure. It's incredibly strange, but I get that a lot of patriotism is just having fun. For a lot of people, it's like wearing your team's colors to a game. It's a good time. The problem is that that's not all that patriotism, or its defense, is. Almost every week,
Now he's talking vaguely about patriotism. He's talking very broadly about the problem of patriotism. There's a very broad of patriotism in general as an abstraction. So now he's going to debunk and dispel the abstraction of patriotism from his YouTube channel.
I get an email.
It's definitely not patriotic because his YouTube channel is based in the international community. It's not based in America.
Calling me a traitor or anti-American scum. For some reason, in this...
I never get called that, ever. And I am JT. Hey, second thought. I got banned. I got deplatformed. I can never stream on Twitch again because I critiqued my own fucking empire. I have never gotten an email of someone calling me anti-American. I have literally put myself on the line to oppose American imperialism. Hey, second thought. When I first fucking came on the internet, you know what I got canceled for? It wasn't culture war stuff. It wasn't even being a patsock. I got canceled for being a genocide denier because I defended China against the accusations of committing genocide. I defended China against the liberal critics who were calling it a fascist authoritarian state, while your friend, Bad Empanada, was joining with all these liberals attacking me for defending China before I said a fucking word about patriotism. Bad Empanada literally attacked me because I said that imperialism is referring to a specific late European neocolonialism, or it's a specifically modern European thing. It's not referring to these ancient empires. And Bad Empanada tried to ridicule me for saying this basic Marxist truism. He had a problem with me saying that. Dude, my reputation among the left was destroyed before anything. Before any of this stuff about patriotism, they tried to destroy my reputation because of my fervent opposition to U.S. imperialism. Before I said a fucking word about anything relating to the culture war or anything relating to patriotic socialism. I was here defending China. I was here defending the cause of anti-imperialism consistently. I got fucking smeared for it. For opposing AOC and other warmongers. I have never gotten called anti-American. I've never gotten those angry emails. So if you're getting called anti-American, second thought, it's not because you're critiquing American imperialism. It's not because you're critiquing American capitalism. It's because people can see right through you and all their basic wisdom. You are a shill for the international bourgeoisie, and they see right through you. When you talk, what they hear is CNN. What they hear is the ruling institutions of society. That's why they call you an anti-American. Because you are an enemy of the American working class.
In this country, good faith criticism almost always triggers this knee-jerk reaction that the
No, it doesn't. And this is what I'm trying to prove here. It most definitely does not. No, good faith criticism does not provoke. I don't get that reaction. And again, I have literally gotten deplatformed. They tried to destroy and tarnish my reputation because I put myself on the line opposing American imperialism.
person raising their concerns, or more often just advocating for their own self-determination, hates America. Let's take an example. Here's an email I got from someone who probably genuinely believes they love their country and thinks
You know what, douchebag? If you hate the system and country so fucking much, grab a bag, pack it up, head either north or south, stop by the American or Mexican American Community Customs Office, denounce your citizenship, fork over your ideas and biometrics, be erased, and go live, but don't ever come back. You know why he's telling you that, dude? He's telling you that because you're sitting here, you're above everyone, right? You're sitting here bitching and whining about the country you live in. You're offering no positive solutions. You're just bitching and whining. If you're not an American, then yeah, get the fuck out of here. The only people who should be in America, politically, and political leaders in America, the only ones who should be here are the ones interested in fighting for the American people. Go to fucking Canada if you're not interested in doing that. Go somewhere else. Go to Europe where you worship it. You cannot fucking be here if you're just gonna sit here and bitch at the hard-working people of this country, whining and complaining. Now, if you're gonna root yourself in the working class and then critique the government and the system, you'll get nothing. That guy would love you. If you actually told that guy, I'm a fellow American, hand in hand, let's fight our elites, take our country back, and stop this corrupt system, that guy would fucking love you, dude. He'd be a fan of you. He doesn't want to, he's not defending the status quo. He just hates your anti-social stance. It's an anti-worker stance. Workers work every day. They go to the fucking construction, they go to their factory, they go wherever, they go to their mines, and they work every day. They're not interested in an indeterminate whining and bitching. Give us a working solution, and maybe you'll have people's ear. Have a working solution, right? You don't have a working... You talk about anti-capitalism. What does your socialism actually look like? What do you mean? So what does it mean? Well, I just think it's always an appeal for them to just get in a circle and start listening to you. I just think we should kind of get together and discuss overthrowing capitalism. They don't have time to discuss anything with you. They're busy actually working. That's why, second thought.
what they're doing is a justified defense. And you know what? Let's give this viewer the benefit of the doubt. If you wholeheartedly believe that someone hates you and or the place you call home, it's not entirely unreasonable to get angry with them like this. But here's the thing. If you really want to label yourself patriotic, this kind of approach is completely counterproductive. Think about it for a second. If you care about your country, you should be among the first to call out problems when you see them. If you love your country...
Dude, that's not the problem, JT. Even MAGA calls out problems. The issue with you is that you have a pretentious stance. And your pretentious stance is that you're above them. You're not one of them. You're above them somehow. You're part of the enlightened Euro-liberal, I don't fucking know. You're like, oh, I'm gonna critique the system. Based on what? Based on the shared collective experience of the American working class? Sure, critique the system. They'll love you. They'll fucking subscribe to you. That'll be your audience. You won't do that because you'll get banned. If you do that consistently, you'll just get banned. That's why you don't do it. You play it safe. Now, you don't have haters, dude. You don't have... And he made a whole fucking video because he got some angry emails. Dude, no wonder you're a liberal. No wonder you're a liberal. If you are Haas on the internet, you know how much fucking hate I get? You know how much DMs from lib shits I get? You know how much these people try to smear me, slander me, and defame me objectively? I'm not just saying that vaguely. I mean, like, objectively, black and white, they lie about me. It's not up for dispute. If you ask people who is Haas, they will say, my name is Adam. They'll say Haas is a white guy named Adam who's half French and half Maronite. But it's not true. Objectively, it's not, but it's still a lie that gets propagated. There's other lies that get propagated about me, like that I'm a fascist, or I'm Hitler, or that I support George. I mean, there's so many stupid things people believe about me that are just lies. You want to know why? Second thought? Because the real Haas doesn't even get a chance to be heard by 90% of politically interested people on the internet. Why? Because they've quarantined me by smearing me and defaming me so much. You know what I mean? Like, dude, you get an audience of 3,000 commenters probably like, oh, this is a reasonable. Yeah, because you're not upsetting anyone in power. You're not dangerous. If you are so sensitive to a fucking email, I know exactly why you would never, ever be like me, dude. You can't take the heat. You would never be able to be a communist, JT, because if you're actually going to be a real communist and you're going to be creating content, you're going to be an influencer, oh boy, do you got to have thick skin. Oh boy, do you have to take the heat. Oh boy, do you have to deal with the fact that there are people who are dedicating every moment of their life to try and bring you down. And you don't get there's no fairness. It's not like you get a trial. You know, these leftists will make some shit up about you. It'll get 10,000 likes. You think there's a trial? You think that you go to court and everyone presents their evidence and you get a fair trial? No. People will just believe lies about you. And you can't even debunk it because your platform isn't even big enough to reach all the people lying about you, to believe all the lies about you. JT, you wouldn't even have your platform of 1.5 million people to defend yourself. You'd be banned before you could ever get that big. You'd be shadow banned. JT, Jackson Hinkle, by the time he got to like 70,000 subs, YouTube demonetized him and gave him 2 strikes. You got to 1.5 million subscribers. Do you think anyone's going to sit here and think you're a threat to the system? When Jackson got to like 70K, YouTube was like, oh, you know what? We got to fucking throw a monkey wrench in this guy's way and just get rid of him. 2 strikes they gave him. He had to delete his whole fucking channel and start from scratch. And they demonetized him. Dude, second thought. If you were a communist, you would not have all of these. You would not have 3,000 anonymous people support you in your comment section. I promise. You wouldn't have this. I promise. Like the way they do. Like you wouldn't be devoid of so much controversy if you were a real communist. If you're actually a communist, dude, they will smear you. They will drag you through the fucking mud. Dude, you have no idea. You have no idea the lengths they'll fucking go to, dude. They'll literally, they don't care if you're guilty or not. They will make shit up about you. You don't get a trial. Base. Thank you so much, Chris.
The revolution will not be televised.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's like, dude, you don't understand. If you think this email is worth making an 18-minute video over, you have really thin skin. This is extremely thin skin, dude.
and your fellow Americans, you should want to fix those problems, not blindly defend them. This kind of behavior isn't patriotic. It's ignorant. All those quote-unquote traitors are doing is bringing attention to problems that all—
Yeah, but hold on, wait a second. MAGA are the people who get deplatformed for talking about certain problems in America and certain problems with America's medical industry. And yet you're trying to make it seem like MAGA is here calling everyone who critiques America's problems anti-American. That's not true. It's the people who are trying to impose an institutional agenda in the name of that self-criticism that they're opposing. They're not opposing people for conscientiously objecting to America's injustices. They're opposing an agenda that's being imposed on everyone, which is in the name of this, oh, we're America, we can do better, we can do better, so we can do better, so we're gonna just fucking, like, you know, have you reduce your hamburger consumption or some shit. We can do better, so we're just gonna take your fucking jobs away and tell you to fucking learn to code, right?
All of us should want to solve. There's nothing un-American about caring for your unhoused neighbors. Nothing unreasonable about pointing out that our medical bills are the highest in the world and that we should work to lower them. It's not being a traitor to suggest—
Who is Veronica? What are you talking about?
That the United States is—
Who is that? Who is Veronica? I don't know.
Is not living up to the standards it claims to set for itself and the rest of the world. And it's not un-American to identify that the root of the problem runs pretty deep. I think we can all agree that these problems exist. That's not the issue most of the time. The issue comes when someone suggests that the cause of these problems is structural and therefore requires structural change.
No, it's not. The problem is when you try to pass off your billionaire-funded institutional agendas as structural change. You call it structural change. Oh, it was on the sign. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, you're calling it structural change, but what is it actually? It's actually just an institutionally enforced agenda that doesn't lead to any change whatsoever, but which participates in the oppression of ordinary Americans.
A lot of these problems, these things that we can all agree are hurting people both in this country and beyond our borders, aren't just a matter of bad—
Do you not see that when you say, oh, I'm just critiquing America, most people see that as, okay, you want to control us even more. Let's critique America, guys, so let's give the government more power, and let's give institutions more power. Second thought, if your premise is fuck the government, begin from scratch, people will listen to anything you have to say, right? But again, you're not going to put your career on the line. You're going to pander to Reddit because what you're saying is just inoffensive and innocuous to most NPCs who don't have to critically think about anything.
People. They are an integral part of the American experiment, going all the way back to the country's founding and the principles our economy is built on. And it's okay to point that out.
What principles?
The Constitution.
It's okay to point that out, but you're wondering why people oppose you, JT, because what are you replacing our Constitution with? Are they involved in that? No, they're not. Your 1619 project didn't consult people's collective experiences. It was manufactured in American universities. It's being enforced on an institutional level oftentimes. The people they're not figured in it at all. They have nothing to do with it.
The Constitution allows for amendments because it was written with the idea that things would change. And what was accepted by the Founding Fathers doesn't have to be accepted by us today. Just because the Constitution is still around doesn't mean that everything in it is good or works. It just means
that no one thinks that. No one thinks that.
That it's a document that effectively
For example, didn't Trump say I want to show you what a idiot this guy is. Dude, Didn't Trump directly say, yeah, let's just like rewrite the Constitution? And nobody cared. His supporters didn't mind. Clearly, you're not getting to the essence of the matter. You're just dealing with the symptoms. You're not dealing with the underlying reason why you're getting these hate mail comments. Okay? If Trump made a tweet saying the Constitution should be burned, his supporters would be open-minded, at least. It's not based in an idea, it's based in the context. What does it mean to say that? Trump is saying, oh, like it's a class war, basically. I know Trump is hijacking it for his own reasons, sure, but that is still based in a real form of social antagonism, which is based on the rule of institutional elites versus the rest of the country that is resistant to the domestication by these institutions.
Protected its own existence. Fun fact, many of the founding fathers, who are always portrayed as dusty old dudes in History Channel documentaries, were actually in their 20s. You wouldn't want a constitution written by a bunch of frat boys to be immortal and unchangeable.
No, we don't want a constitution based in a bunch of frat boys. We want it based in a bunch of teenage furries on Twitter who identify as Maoists, or in the elderly wisdom of Joe Sims and Rosanna Cambron.
Would you? Okay, so hopefully.
I love how there's literally this war of independence where people shed blood fighting the British Empire, and the American people rise up, the yeomen, the farmers, and according to this so-called Marxist, all of this is reducible to the age and experience of the founding fathers, not the entire social and political and historical change and movement that they merely represented. No, it's just, the whole American Constitution is just like frat boys. Forget about the actual War of Independence and forget about actual history. It's like the great man theory of history, except he's trying to say the men in this case are not great. It's still a great man theory of history.
Hopefully I've made it clear that a better conception of patriotism would require a willingness to soberly assess and tackle our country's problems. With that, we've already broached the topic of what's called uncritical patriotism. But there's no reason we can't let go of patriotism entirely.
Dude, it's just not true. Again, most of the criticisms of the status quo come from MAGA. MAGA is the one critiquing everything about what our government is actually currently doing. Name a single thing our government doing, you're going to find people in MAGA critiquing it. Ain't so much Urban Savage.
He's literally dealing in straw man arguments. That's a massive red flag, but the NPCs aren't discerning enough to see it. His understanding of American patriotism, basically what he read in New York Times.
Yeah, these are just all straw men, honestly.
And this video will make that claim for American patriotism specifically. Patriotism, especially here in the States, doesn't actually build genuine solidarity like the glorified image of patriotism might have you believe.
Yeah, but it does, though. I'm sorry, dude. When you go... Dude, I'm sorry. It's just like, I don't know where you live. Dude, I'm sorry, but like, go on any lake on the 4th of July and tell me that there's no genuine solidarity between people based on American patriotism. It just sounds stupid.
It's not really about standing together in any meaningful way.
Yeah, except in the most meaningful of all ways, which is the concrete historical experiences and history of the people.
Instead, patriotism in this country actually reinforces divisions along aesthetic lines convenient to those in power. It encourages exceptionalist thinking and xenophobia, with consequences neither good for the world nor for average Americans. And having been
dude, xenophobia and exceptionalism. Trump literally said he hates the word American exceptionalism. Again, who is okay, broadly speaking, within American politics, broadly speaking, which formation that exists in American politics now is more willing to critique America's interventions in the world? It's the MAGA movement, right? That's not really something that can be disputed.
Been injected with anti-communist rhetoric during the Cold War, patriotism has become this loyalty to the myth that the US is the sole bastion of goodness and freedom in the world.
Yeah, you talk about anti-communism during the Cold War, but don't you realize that the content of that anti-communism was precisely the idea that communism is opposed to patriotism? Do you not see how, for example, the Communist Party USA, even at this time, went out of its way to make a huge, huge effort to promote the view that communists were patriotic for America, drawing from the legacy of the Popular Front and the experience of the Second World War? I mean, sorry, dude, but you have the whole thing missing.
Which makes any claim that something might be wrong, unjust, and possible for us to change seem like a declaration of war. Let's talk about that. Patriotism is always promoted as solidarity. Behind the symbols, the territory, the language, the culture.
When you sit here and you say, I want to set up a special bureaucratic institution to control Americans' lives even more, yeah, people are going to call you an anti-American, and rightfully so. Again, because you're basically presenting yourself as like, yeah, I'm going to go beyond your form of sovereignty and try to control you in ways that you don't even live and die for. In the form of like American actual political sovereignty. I have this special agenda to fuck with your lives and intervene in your lives. No, dude, nobody wants to hear that shit. Nobody wants to hear, let's give more control to the government. No one wants to hear that.
Whatever patriotism attaches itself to, its main draw isn't we all like these three colors, it's community and solidarity with other people. This idea that even people you've never met and will never meet are there for you and you're there for them. It's a nice idea and said in—
I don't think so. No, I think that's maybe for people who don't have strong family ties, that's the appeal of it. But the main appeal of patriotism is meaningfulness. You're just trying to like make sense of your humanity and trying to give meaning to like, what is the specific history and form of humanity you live in and dwell within.
In this abstract way, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. But there are a couple problems with the reality of patriotic quote-unquote solidarity. For starters, it obviously doesn't extend to everyone, and patriotic solidarity specifically is weaponized for conservative ends. The political scientist Benedict Anderson puts it very clearly when he says, regardless of the actual inequality and exploitation that may prevail in each, the nation is always conceived as a deep, horizontal comradeship. And as you might expect, this is something that those who benefit from inequality and exploitation can use. If enough people can be convinced that unity along the lines of nationality is more important than pretty much anything else, then calling it
according to second thought, unity on the basis of nationality is just an idea that people are convinced by, not an actual fucking concrete reality based on actual real concrete fucking differences between nations. It's just an idea, dude. Why don't we just unite on the basis of like, you know, music. Dude, the reason you can't unite with Mexicans on the basis of something higher than the national one is because Mexicans have their own sovereignty and you have your own sovereignty. Before you talk about uniting with Mexicans on anything, you have to address the question of the concrete relationship between your form of sovereignty and theirs. Because you may think you can create a relationship of equality, but the actual national differences will inevitably exert themselves, regardless of whether you acknowledge them or not. And the only way for those national differences to resolve themselves into a relationship of genuine equality is if you respect them and you acknowledge them in the first place.
Attention to all the internal conflicts within a society can be swept under the rug as dividing us. For patriots, unity is what makes the country proud and strong, so it's better not to point out how that unity is held together by one group oppressing another, or we might risk losing that unity. But obviously, not calling out oppression benefits the people doing the oppressing. Through the idea of the nation, people come to identify with their exploiters in a way that justifies—
Notice he doesn't really use concrete examples. He just uses vague buzzwords like oppression that I guess liberals will intuitively understand, but everyone else will be at a loss for what he's trying to actually talk about.
Their continued existence. For example, some people are proud that their country has more billionaires than other countries. For some reason, being born within a couple thousand miles of one another and within the same border gets people to identify with those who have hoarded more wealth than we can even understand. Most people share almost nothing in common with their country's billionaires, and almost everything with the average person in another country. But that feeling of pride gets them to disregard one set of differences and makes the small—
No, dude, you're right. Like, the people who are really patriotic in America totally love Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. Dude. You know what? Dude, you're right, dude. That MAGA trucker. Like, yeah, don't you love Bill Gates because he's a fellow American? And they'll be like, yeah, I love Bill Gates, man. I love Mark Zuckerberg. Totally the epitome of a son of the soil, hard-working fellow American. Who is this video even made for?
Smaller differences with foreigners seem a lot bigger. As a result, the exploitation that is necessary for billionaires to exist seems less important when we're told it's in the service of something we share, the greatness of America. Even though the greatness of America does—
Who is this? Who is he talking about? I would love to see the MAGA trucker who's like, yeah, Bill Gates. I love Bill Gates. I love Mark Zuckerberg. I love those guys. Hell yeah.
Does almost nothing to make your life better, but billionaires—
Oh, I know what he's talking about. He's talking about the one exception. He's talking about Donald Trump. Oh, that's what he means. So he's using all these other people to make— oh, I'm not just talking about Trump. I'm talking about other— No, you're just talking about Trump. You're talking about the— You're talking literally about the one member of the ruling class who got kicked out and then basically got so bitter that he cultivated this like counter-hegemonic movement. And you're saying that MAGA's relationship to Trump epitomizes the relationship of patriots to billionaires in general. The reason you can't extrapolate MAGA's loyalty to Trump to some generality of billionaires is because Trump is quite literally the exception. He's the member of the ruling class, or at least the former member of the ruling class, if we are to believe all the claims that he's in debt and shit, that he's kind of like a Promethean figure for these people. He's the one who turned against— he was a class traitor, basically, right? And that was very powerful for the MAGA movement. It's like Trump had all the power of the ruling class oppressing us, but he decided to believe in us instead. And that's why they're so fucking loyal to him. It's not because they're loyal to billionaires in general, because if they were, you'd think there were more billionaires that they idolize in the same way, but there aren't. Almost all of the other billionaires are openly hated by MAGA. Davos and the World Economic Forum is literally the object of all of MAGA's reactionary conspiracy theories. I mean, you could even mention Elon Musk, but Elon is more like the Trump for young people. Trump supporters don't necessarily like Elon that much as far as like the MAGA boomers are concerned, but the younger ones probably like Elon a little more than Trump. But it really varies, honestly. Everyone likes Elon because of what he did with Twitter. Even I do, actually, right? But beyond that, I mean, what political relevance is there to Elon Musk? Not much. I mean, even Trump critiqued Elon Musk's rockets and shit. So it's just kind of ambiguous, you know? I don't really see MAGA people like buying Teslas all the time. It's not really like their identity, right?
Getting tax cuts and skirting labor laws definitely makes it worse. This is something that's really apparent when conservative patriots talk about the experience of black Americans, for example. In a recent interview, the conservative economist Glenn Loury said, quote, "Look, here we are. We are African Americans, but we are Americans first. We are not African in any way that's meaningful. Yes, our ancestors may have been enslaved, but they were also emancipated. We are literally the richest and most powerful people of African descent on the entire planet. We have 10 times the income on average of the typical Nigerian. There's an enormous black middle class and black billionaires." The translation, pride in the existence of the possibility of black success justifies the continued exploitation of the vast majority of black people. If you are black, you should be grateful to have the incredibly unlikely chance to have more money than you know what to do with, instead of complaining that this system is rigged against you. And in a similar way...
Yeah, but you'd be surprised how common that sentiment is. And I don't really feel like it's your business. I feel like that's black people's business to critique or to not critique, but like it's more of a common sentiment than you'd think. Is all I'd really say. Namely, this idea that, like, we're Americans first. It's an extremely common sentiment. Especially when you consider the tensions between the American black community and Africans. There is a huge tension, right? I'm not necessarily justifying that sentiment, but I'm just saying, like, for someone who's so adamant to talk about the exploitation of black America, kind of seems like you're ignoring... Well, you just shouldn't talk about something that you're not a part of, right? It's up to black people to discuss and articulate their own exploitation, quote unquote, not you.
Is rigged against other black people in another country, by implying that black Americans should prioritize their that exploits their racial otherness to deny them a comfortable life, but that other people have it worse, turns rightful to be done to rectify this injustice, and what structures are keeping it in place. By contrast, a patriotic approach to these facts gets people to...
Yeah, it's not about rectifying injustice, it's about having a government for the people in the first place, which we don't. It's not actually in the interest of the American people to oppress the people of the world. And that's what Trump actually proved.
Think that the best we can do is protect what we have. Never try to get more. Never question the nature of the system as it exists today.
Dude, this is why people call you anti-American. It's not because you're critiquing the system. It's because you are saying something that is just unjustifiable. No, we shouldn't be grateful for what we have. We should demand more. You will never understand the American psyche if you approach things this way. For example, I'm not saying we shouldn't have universal health care because of this. I'm saying how you're wording it is communicating something very specific. A, you can word it like this. We are entitled to health care. Sorry, I know we have things already, but we should have health care because let's just have more stuff. Let's just have more free stuff. Now contrast that to saying something like this. This is our country. We're hardworking Americans. All of us pay our taxes. Our government should at least do things for us, since we do so much for it already. So one of them is a justice claim. Like, we deserve it because we earned it, right? The other one is saying, we just demand for more. Another world is possible. More and more and more. No one buys into that, dude. It's like it's the same policy, but just wording it differently communicates something so different. And it's the same policy. It's just how you word it can communicate all the difference, right?
And never hope to achieve justice, especially for those not
You're complaining about the fact that you're not in touch with American sensibilities.
These so-called anti-capitalists are the first to defend the corporate censorship of dissidents because corporations are in the private sector.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Dark Miles Monk. You know what the problem is that this person is trying to critique American sensibilities. Which is just, yes, you are an anti-American. You're critiquing people's sensibilities because you can't make sense of them. Because they're not compatible with your Europeanized liberal education. Well, then go to fucking Europe then. You need to understand how Americans think if you're going to try and relate to Americans. You're not in touch with the people. You're not in touch with the working class. Americans are not against free healthcare. They're not against... Americans aren't against socialism. You just have to word it in the right way. When you say, let's take back our resources, let's have the people own it, we the people, they're on board with it. But when you say some shit like, you know, I think we should set up a special bureau that will have marginalized people be able to own the means of production, and we can basically rectify the injustices and have you go through courseworks and you can really radically confront your own prejudices. I think we should basically have the government own everything. So, okay, let me tell you something. Let's talk about nationalizing America's natural... Let's talk about nationalizing the oil, right? Basic socialist policy. It's what Chavez did. That's like a very simple socialistic policy, right? Nationalizing the oil. Even nationalizing the steel industry, right? When you tell Americans, hey, let's have the government own everything, they're going to be like, what? Fuck no, right? But then when you say, let's take it back, or when you say, you know, let's have it be owned by we the people, it's good, right? It's about how you word it. That's what makes the difference. The policy doesn't actually matter. How you word it matters.
Part of the patriotic community.
Because you're basically, when you say let's have the government own it, you're aligning yourself with the bourgeoisie and the prevailing institutions. When you say let's take it back, you're basically saying it's already yours, so take it. Like, you are already the workers who produce all the wealth in this country, so take it, for example. That resonates with them better because they're workers. They work every day. They want you to speak to what they're already doing, not some potential thing that doesn't exist, right? People don't want to pay for someone's healthcare who are lazy. Yeah, but again, that's when you're trying to say some shit like, you know, I want an anonymous government that doesn't necessarily serve the interests of we the people, but serves an abstraction of the people. Of course, then all sorts of bad actors and lazy people and people gaming the system and the welfare queens that Reagan talked about, of course those fears will open up because you're basically alienating people from the organ by which the economy will be owned.
At the end of the day, the existence of black billionaires still relies on the exploitation of black people, and is still supported by the systemic discrimination of black people. But drown all that in a little American pride, and it goes down a lot smoother. To recap, patriotism replaces solidarity among people.
Like if Trump said, let's nationalize the oil industry and healthcare, no one would be against it, I promise.
People who suffer under the same structures of injustice.
Because Trump, for them, Trump represents a proximity to power, right? It's no longer this alienation that you have with an anonymous bureaucratic institution. It's President Trump, who we already know and trust, and of course he's going to look out for our interests. It's not some anonymous bureaucracy.
In this case international racial capitalism, and replaces it with solidarity between those who do the oppressing and those who are oppressed. Let me seriously ask, what is the point of patriotism? Why choose to believe you're better or even meaningfully different from someone on the other side of the world? Let me seriously ask, what is the point of patriotism? Why choose to believe you're better or even meaningfully different from someone on the other side of the world?
I have never seen such an out of touch, frankly, brainless thing that is no one is like pointing it out. What is like the point of patriotism, man? Like, What makes you even think you're different from any... What an arrogant thing to say. You don't think you're different from someone living in fucking Turkey or something? You don't think you're different than someone living in India? You are, dude. And if you go to India thinking that there's no differences, you're just gonna fucking be seen as a chauvinist. You're gonna be seen as someone disrespectful. Of course you're different from other. Of course people are fucking different. You're bitching that, oh, Americans aren't buying into my socialism, but you're gonna fucking try and claim that people are not meaningfully different. Yeah, people share all of the same collective historical experiences. People share the same culture, people share the same language, people share the same customs, people share the same way of life, people share the same family morals, people share the same religion. There's why would you be patriotic? Everyone's the same. You know what's funny is that he makes a video saying, why is American patriotism so weird? But like, this is such a fundamentally American thing to say. It's all the bad things about America. You want me to critique America? It's this American hubris. Oh, everyone likes hamburgers, so everyone's the fucking same. No, they're not, dude. There are fundamental differences between people. Maybe those differences can be bridged or sublated in 1,000 years. That's going to come from a deep-seated dialogue and exchange.
Nothing is actually more uniquely American than the idea that no one is different from us.
Exactly. That's what I mean. What a stupid thing to say. I mean, what is the point of patriotism? When you ask a question like that, you're just proving you shouldn't be teaching anyone anything because you're not educated enough. It's a question that betrays such a deep level of immaturity. Asking why are people patriotic betrays such a deep level of just immaturity. I'm sorry. Like, you don't understand enough about what it means to be an adult human being if you're asking that question. You're pretty much like a child being like, what's the point of bedtime? What is the point of eating broccoli? What is the point? It's like, you're like a child. You're like, you don't, what's the point of like a committed relationship? Why don't we just like have fucking open relationships? Dude, you are just a child. There is a reason, dude. It's just, if you don't understand it, you're saying you're immature. You're not enough of an adult to understand this implicit reality of, yes, there is a specifically American, specific national reality that cannot be extrapolated to be universal for the whole fucking world. Okay? Dude, this is such like a bafflingly stupid... Why be What? Why be patriotic? What makes you think you're different from anyone? Meaningfully different from anyone? Oh my god, the naivety, dude. Imagine this dude walks into the fucking Soviet... Imagine he's talking to Stalin. He's like, yo, Stalin, why even be patriotic? What meaningful differences exist between people? Yeah, it's not like Stalin wrote Marxism and the national
His failure is a present in that he wants to subordinate the American people to his own ends, rather than serving the American people and their will.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is such a bafflingly stupid thing to say. This is the definition of what they called in the Soviet Union bourgeois cosmopolitanism. It's like a Marie Antoinette out of touch, like, why do you even care? Who cares? Dude, you don't care because you're not part of the working class. You're not actually reproducing materially the reality of what holds and glues this country you take for granted is a part of. You're just on YouTube, so you don't get it. I mean, I'm on YouTube too, but I humble myself, right? You don't. You're just this arrogant guy on YouTube who's like, when I'm like typing on YouTube and there's a guy in Uruguay, it's like, who cares? Well, you'll see the difference when it comes to the deep-rooted way of life that defines the differences between Americans and people in Uruguay. There's deep-seated differences based in different ways of life. For example, different collective historical experiences. And those are meaningful. They do matter, actually.
Your material concerns are the same. You have bills, you want to take care of your family, you want the freedom to pursue your own happiness. There is far more in common between you than the differences created by a borderline...
Dude, but those all are that's just devoid of content. Like, what does that actually look like? Because, okay, we all want to pursue happiness. Yeah, but the differences come from when what we consider happiness is different, right? That's what you're not understanding. You're like, these are just a bunch of vague generalities that don't have any specific determinate form. Oh, well, we all want the same thing. We all want peace and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, well, what does that look like? Okay, well, when you start dealing with what that actually looks like, you deal with why people are different.
Why even call
Thank
it
you all that
Petrogod, cigarette?
Like, thank you so much,
We all exist under American unipolar order, so when you think about you're just the same as me, smiley face.
It's actually what he's saying here, though. It's like actually what he's saying.
Decided hundreds of years ago in random wars and brutal, bloody conquests. The world is not going to be made better as long as the oppressed fight one another for the crumbs dropped from the table of the oppressors. Move.
Okay, but acknowledging national differences and being patriotic for your country doesn't mean that the oppressed have to fight amongst themselves. It just means we have to fight for our own countries, second thought. It means when the working class of France rises up to overthrow the French bourgeoisie, it's not going to be Americans meddling in their business. We're going to do the same for our own country. They're going to do it in their country. And we're going to do it as patriots. It doesn't mean we're going to fight each other. It just means we're going to recognize that our human reality is national in form. You know, I just look at the fact that this person represents the type of people taking over the Communist Party USA, so just completely bereft of basic Marxist-Leninist communist wisdom. Such a level of infantilism and immaturity. And that's the future of the party right now. I mean, our people are Takia, right? But this is what's legitimate, just, and so, for example, red libs on Twitter are like, Haas is such an idiot. He doesn't know anything about Marxism. I watch Second Thought. Second Thought is so much smarter. And he knows so much more about theory than Haas. What an unjust world, dude. Literally. What an objectively, like, unfair reality we live in. Like, this guy's considered smarter and more adept and wiser than me. And he's saying such stupid shit like, who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Dude, who cares? Whatever. Yeah, you're wearing your, like, hijab or whatever. Like, yeah, all these, like, Japanese people on the train. Whatever. Look at all these women with hijabs. Whatever, dude. This guy has a hat. Okay, I get it. Whatever, dude. We're all on YouTube. So let's just all, all identify as, like, communists and, like, let's just, like, all forget about all our differences and just, like, be the same. We're all part of the YouTube online community. Whatever, dude. Who cares? And we're supposed to fucking take this seriously. Like, I'm a ridiculous, unserious person. Guys, you know what the difference is? I'm a ridiculous, unserious person because I make a mockery of the medium that I use. I mock the medium I use by oftentimes being silly. I'm just a silly guy sometimes, intentionally, in order to deliberately mock the medium I'm using so that we never take ourselves too seriously. But this person who takes himself incredibly seriously and looks at the camera with a straight face, with this incredible level of seriousness and professionalism, is taken seriously. After saying such bafflingly stupid shit, people take him seriously. After basically forwarding a position of, yes, what the Soviets called cosmopolitanism, and I would implore anyone to explain to me the difference between cosmopolitanism and what this... I mean, how is this different from what the Soviets referred to as cosmopolitanism? No, how is this internationalism? Well, no, because it's Soviet, it's Marxist-Leninist orthodoxy that, you know, internationalism is impossible without being a real patriot. I mean, I can also quote Dimitrov, right? For example, okay, like for example, Dimitrov, the spirit of internationalism. But anyone who thinks that this permits him to sneer at all the national sentiments of the broad masses of working people is far from being a genuine Bolshevik. Proletarian internationalism must acclimatize itself in each country in order to strike deep roots in its native land. National forms of proletarian class struggle and of the labor movement in individual countries are in no contradiction to proletarian internationalism. So if you want to ask the question of what's the difference between internationalism and cosmopolitanism, it's this. Proletarian internationalism is national in form, okay? Whereas cosmopolitanism posits some kind of nationless, global, cosmopolitan community devoid of any determinate form whatsoever, which the Soviets rightfully understood was just an extension of American imperialism, disguising itself as a common global community of people. Artists, intellectuals, and today YouTubers and people on the internet and influencers, all part of this community, this global community, this international community, which coincidentally is completely based materially and financially in the Anglo-Saxon capitalist institutions. But that's just, you know, as Vosh or Dylan Burns or Destiny would say, I mean, who cares that it's specifically American? It's the principle that counts, right? American, I mean, yeah, we know that international human rights is like all Euroid American shit. British Americans. I mean, who cares, though? It's the principle of human rights. China. I am not taking America's side. I'm neutral. I'm a citizen of the world. But China's violating human rights right now. No, I'm not a shill of American imperialism. I'm above both America and China. Is that really a convincing... Does anyone buy that? Right?
And this is one of the great debates of American politics. What is the soul of America? Generally, a patriot might answer with something like freedom, opportunity, or justice. And if that's you, those are good things to defend and give value to. I'm right there with...
But when they're saying that, they're referring to the implicitly, specifically national form that gives this context. You know, right now I'm just critiquing Second Thought from the perspective of orthodox Marxism-Leninism, which I go beyond, at least in the Western context, because I'm also influenced by Dugin and stuff. Because in Western Marxism-Leninism, the nation is just a form, right? Whereas I think with Dugin, there's an acknowledgement of a dialectic of form and content where even the material content bears the marking of the form. And that's what Dugin will refer to as the logos, specific, civilizational logos, which, although Dugin couches it in metaphysical terminology, I think can be translated to a genuinely materialist insight, right? As long as we have a dialectic of form and content. You know, a lot of Marxists implicitly have this, kind of Spinozist materialism, which posits all material content to be undialectically just one flat plane of matter. And then form is just this kind of giving form to the one, universal content of matter. Whereas I think the true spirit of materialist dialectics is that even matter is embedded in a dialectic, an internal dialectic, such that even nations and states even have a material reality. They're not just form. It's part of the content too. But, I mean, this is really already there in Maoism. It's implicitly there in Soviet Marxism-Leninism, but it's never there in Western Marxism-Leninism. In the Soviet context, they kind of articulated this implicitly and then explicitly in the form of like these esoteric KGB mystical societies and Sufi societies and whatever. And then in China, they just had the science of Mao Zedong thought. But in America, yeah, it's just the orthodox, you know, the dead letter of the theory, which is what I'm defending right now. I'm not even like going full power mode. I'm just like playing. I'm pretty much saying some shit that even Gus Hall would enthusiastically agree with. I'm like saying some basic shit like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like basic shit. William Z. Foster, Gus Hall, basic orthodox Western Marxist-Leninist stuff.
With you 100%. But there is no reason that you need to attach those things exclusively to the US. Absolutely.
No, we don't, but in practice we do, because this is the country we live in, and it's not our business to attach it to other countries because we have no political... I mean, dude, what right do we have to intervene in another country? That's violating the self-determination of nations, right? It is.
Absolutely defend freedom. Absolutely defend justice. Absolutely defend opportunity. But
we should deny the specific national form it takes in our own fucking country, in the country we live in and are actually a part of. Sounds really fucking stupid, dude.
Why connect those things to this vague idea you'll have to defend too? Because both historically and presently, while American political discourse likes to promote these ideas of freedom and justice, American political action and the structures of American politics and the American economy actively work against these things.
Yeah, but how do you communicate meaningfully to people? Not that that's the case, because everyone already knows that, second thought. You take a survey of Americans and ask them if our government is a government of justice and freedom. They're going to say, fuck no, it's not, right? Is our economy rigged? Yeah, it is. Everyone already agrees with that. How can you meaningfully communicate to people, though, that you represent a form of political leadership, not only cognizant of that fact, but also even having a response to that fact? You do it by saying that we, as Stalin said, are better suited to carrying forward the banner of America, the banner of America's ideals. This is literally what Stalin said in his last speech, by the way. We are better suited to carry the banner of these nationally specific ideals than the ruling classes. You don't say, oh, there's nothing specifically American about these things because our American government is corrupt. Well, then what about the American people? Should they stop being American people and should they start being Australian people? Or they shouldn't be any nation at all. Just the working class. Does the working class have form? No, it's just the workers. Okay, what does a working class country look like? It looks like if Hakeem was president and Luna Oy was the vice president, and everyone okay, what language do we speak? Oh, we all speak working classese. What's working classese sound like? It sounds like what is that? It doesn't sound like a language. Yeah, I'm just whining. Yeah. What is a working class culture? This is like prolet cult shit. You know, like the stuff Lenin denounced as like retarded or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, okay, fling overboard the national specificity that gives context to proletarian class struggle and just replace make content and form the same. What is a proletarian country? What is the proletarian language, first of all? That's the first thing I want to ask this guy. Okay, let's throw away patriotism. What language should we speak when we communicate with each other, JT? Why should it be English? What should we speak? Let's invent our own, a working class one. Stupid, man. It's fucking stupid. It's just Trotskyist, left-com, anarchoid nonsense. It's completely opposed to the actual content of Marxist-Leninist historical experience.
I'm not going to rehash all of American history to make this point. Suffice it to say that slavery, manifest destiny, meaning the still ongoing genocide of Native Americans, and the various imperial wars the US has led, are all cases where the nation's first goal and economic motivation was suppressing the freedom of people categorized as others, and
what a brilliant Marxist analysis.
Therefore outside the mythologized community, defending something like freedom within the
What a brilliant historical. Yeah, when we invaded Iraq, the propaganda was that, yeah, this is the other and we have to go attack the other. It wasn't, oh, we have to liberate the Iraqis from tyranny and make them eat hamburgers like us because they're the same as us. We were universal human rights. No, there was no rhetoric of universal human rights, JT. You're so right, dude.
Context of American patriotism has rarely ever meant actually defending freedom, and it's almost always meant taking it away from those who were in the way of a greater—
Right, like, you know, yeah, dude, you're right, dude. Like fucking 1776 wasn't defending freedom. Gerald Horne already said that. You know, the Civil War, of course, Lincoln was just a racist. What else? Fucking the labor struggles when they would wave American flags. No. What about you know, like the civil rights thing? No. And there's never been freedom and there's never been an American anything.
Greater project of wealth accumulation. And I can already hear a commenter saying something like, if the US can be blamed for, say, Jim Crow, then it should also be praised for the civil rights movement. But I'd argue you'd have a really difficult time defining something as America and showing it was on the right side of the civil rights movement.
Why don't we just ask what MLK said himself? Because MLK was waving the American flag and saying, we represent the real America. Yeah, oh, give me something to define as America and say it was on the right side. I don't know. What about the American people? What about the civil rights movement? Was that not American, according to you? Thank you, Harold.
I was banned from the Discord. Here's my penance.
Thank you, Harold. Listen, thank you so much for the 50. Dude, what are you saying? Are you saying the civil rights movement wasn't American? So what was it then? What was it? What was it, dude? Was it Martian? Was it Taiwanese? Civil rights movement's not American. What is it? Papua New Guinea then? What is it then? If it's not American, what do you think it is? Thank you so much, DTA.
Obviously not now, but when you have the time later or another Steam, you should rank all US presidents since Washington. Would be interesting.
I might.
For example, if America to you means the community of people living in this country, the majority opinion of the US was decidedly against the civil rights movement, with the press calling its leaders like MLK and Malcolm X un-American.
Yeah, but the lasting legacy means nothing. Because there's a reason why MLK is even used as a talking point, and he's so revered in the first place. It's because eventually people did come to appreciate his contribution, right? And that's not meaningless. People say, oh, it's hypocritical. It's not. No, it's not. Like, you know, most Americans today appreciate the fact that you can, you know, everyone can be treated on the merit of their character formally, that it's an ideal that we say, yeah, if you're black, you know, you shouldn't be derided and abused just because you're race, you know? I mean, most people appreciate that, you know? So that means nothing to you? But, again, regardless of where the majority stood at the time, by the way, I'm not sure that's very clear, actually. You You can only judge something based on its legacy, not necessarily at the time. All movements at the time are going to be led by a minority. But, yeah, the press doesn't represent the masses either, dude. But, I mean, what I'm trying to say here is that, why don't you consult what MLK himself said? Because they consider themselves inheritors of the American legacy and the American national tradition. Was MLK too stupid? He wasn't white enough to understand that, I guess, according to you? Maybe if he was white, he would be more enlightened. Yeah, I'm going to play the race card. Why not? Everyone's doing it. No, I mean, all seriousness. It's like, what are you saying, dude? MLK himself is clear. Thank you so much, PJ.
I appreciate the work you did on the last 2 streams I missed, brother. Right on the mark, as usual.
Thank you so much, PJ. Appreciate you.
If America means the government of this country, then it too was decidedly against the civil rights movement, sending police to crush the protests. If America means the country's founding documents, civil rights for black people is clearly not what America is all about. When it comes...
Are you sure? Because it literally says that all men are created equal. And yes, black people were considered men, even by the racist founding fathers. So I'm pretty sure it was fulfilling the spirit of... Dude, you may say that civil rights was not a continuation of the spirit of the Constitution and America's founding documents. I just want you to be aware that the leaders of the civil rights movement do not agree with you. Martin Luther King does not agree with you. He was very clear that he viewed the civil rights movement as something deeply American and representing the American national spirit. That is how they identified it. You're saying, oh, well, how they identified it doesn't matter. So what criterion is superior to what they themselves consciously... It's not just that they identified this way. It's like, this was the ideology of the civil rights movement. It's an indispensable part of what motivated people to have a civil rights movement. I mean, MLK was not... I'm more sympathetic to black separatism sometimes, right? But he wasn't a black separatist. So the whole thrust of the civil rights movement was, yeah, there's one unified American country. This is the spirit of the founding fathers in 1776. Black people are equal and deserve civil rights. If you didn't have the element of American patriotism, there would be no civil rights movement. Period. Now, if you want to say I'm against MLK and the civil rights movement, sure, you can make that argument. Just don't mention MLK and the civil rights movement.
Comes to justice, freedom, and opportunity, these things were not achieved for millions of people by being patriotic, but by working outside of and rejecting what was considered American at their time.
Yeah, but they were only doing that because it's what they believed was truly American. Just because certain people considered it un-American doesn't mean it's not what they believed to be American, right? They morally believed this was in line with the American spirit. What you're saying is such a bafflingly stupid and ignorant thing to say.
If you understand why flying the Confederate flag sends a specific message, regardless of the values people who fly it say it represents, consider how the same things might apply to the American flag.
No, I'm not going to fucking consider that. Because if you fly an American flag in America, I'm sorry, if that offends you, fuck off and go live in Canada. If you fly an American flag in Iraq, I get it. It's fucked up. I get it. It means something different. But this is our country. It's the flag of our country. No, it's not the same as the fucking Confederate flag, because the Confederate flag was the flag of slavery, whereas the American flag was the flag of the people who liberated the slaves. There's a big difference, right? Just because there are crimes that occurred under the American flag doesn't mean that's what that flag represents or is for. Conversely, the Confederate States of America existed solely to defend the institution of slavery. So yes, it's not just that slavery occurred under the Confederate flag. The Confederate flag is literally the flag of slavery. There's a big difference between the two.
Retroactively, historical movements like the civil rights movement have been folded into the America that one should be patriotic for. But that doesn't mean that freedom isn't still being suppressed in the name of patriotism. When movements for self-determination like BLM and the decolonization movement make waves, for example.
Okay, BLM was, yes, a color revolution funded by George Soros, at least as of post-2016. There's a money trail. We can prove it, second thought. If you want to call me out on it, I will be happy to prove it. Decolonization isn't making waves whatsoever. If you're talking about the NDN collective, which is literally working with Radio Free Asia and the National Endowment for Democracy by advocating for the decolonization of Tibet and Xinjiang and Russia's Siberian tribes, minorities. What decolonization movement is making waves except outside of the institutions of imperialism? Yeah, among the State Department and the university institutions, I'm sure the idea is becoming popular. Where among the actual American... So, second thought, you previously elevated a special significance to the need for the majority to be taken into account when you evaluate tendencies within a country. You just said that the decolonization movement is making waves. Making waves where? On Twitter? You mean on the internet, right? I hope you're cognizant of the fact that you're talking about the internet and that there's a difference between what's going on Twitter and real life, right? Or do you not realize that? You probably don't, because you make all your living on the internet and you're scared to go against the internet consensus, clearly, because you've never taken a position that could ever get you in any trouble in any context to any degree whatsoever. I've never seen Twitter go after you for one thing. It'll never happen.
The knee-jerk reaction against people wanting a more free society, free for everyone to build their own lives without the threat and exercise of state violence against them, is time and time again patriotism. BLM and decolonization proponents are ruthlessly attacked by an angry mob mobilized not against their ideas, but by the "They Hate America" slogan repeated endlessly on conservative media. These movements are indeed contesting the hegemonic idea of what America is right now, but they are clearly defending the values American patriots claim to hold: freedom, justice, and opportunity.
No, they're not. No, they're not. NDN Collective's demands are a scheme to privatize federal land, and Black Lives Matter is a Democrat-run movement whose activities objectively led to an increased militarization of the police. So you're wrong on both counts.
Finally, we should talk about how anti-communism is a core pillar of American patriotism. Part of the reactionary nature of American patriotism can be explained by the long-standing myths that have surrounded the relationship of the American...
No, it's not. No, it's not. The government tried, and the John Birch Society tried to establish anti-communism as fundamentally part of American patriotism. And colloquially speaking, the meme has certainly gained traction in everyday speech. Oh, you're a commie, whatever. But in actual historical practice and in reality, some of the most fervent patriotic figures of American history were either communists or socialists. Francis Bellamy, to whom the Pledge of Allegiance can be credited, was a socialist. Communists played a pivotal role in the history of building what we know of as modern America, from the labor movement to the civil rights movement. Paul Robeson was a communist, at least spiritually. He wasn't, I don't know if he was a member of the party. During World War II, the communists played a huge part in the Popular Front against Hitler and the Nazis. So you're wrong. You're just wrong on all counts. The reason why anti-communism was so astroturfed was because there was such a close proximity between American patriotism and communism. Part of the Red Scare was actually well-founded because there were elements in the U.S. military and leading voices in American civil society that as a result of the deepening relationship between the USA and the USSR during World War II, did become more sympathetic to communist ideas, and that's a real thing. Communism is as American as apple pie, and that's exactly why the anti-communism of the Cold War had to be so contrived, so forced, and so artificially excessive, because of the radical potency and compatibility that does exist between American patriotic feeling and communist sentiment.
American public with socialist ideas. When movements for justice are called anti-American, they're usually also called Marxist or communist pejoratively. And when movements like the Civil Rights Movement are repackaged into the American patriotic canon, their radicality and the socialist politics of their leaders like MLK are either outright erased or hotly contested, with some even going so far as to say that if MLK was alive today, he'd be a conservative Republican. Two myths.
I think he would, actually. I'm not gonna lie. I think he would. Yeah, if MLK was alive today, he would probably be called a conservative or a Republican. Unironically.
Inform this idea. One, that America is
he'd probably be like more like Cornel West, at least, right? He wouldn't be some fucking like, yay, big pharma. I promise he wouldn't.
Capitalist, meaning that it is in the nature of the United States to be a capitalist nation, rather than the more realistic idea that economic systems come and go, and just because the US has a capitalist economy right now doesn't mean it will forever. And two, that capitalism is the only thing that works, and socialism always fails.
Yeah, but when you associate socialism with increasing the government size, yeah, people are going to associate that with failure, because it is failure. Because we go with the DMV, that's the failure of government right there.
The second claim is clearly a myth because this isn't what I would call working, and historically, American foreign policy has been intent on crushing socialism rather than letting it fail on its own like the pro-capitalist claim it will.
Yeah, but socialism is just, according to the American view, when you say socialism, they think bureaucracy, institutional rule, laziness. It's all justified, by the way, right? Because you socialists have blackened the name of socialism with social democracy, because you're social democrats, AOC, and people don't want that. But if socialism is like, let's have a national rail system and nationalize oil and steel industry and revitalize the economy and give high-paying jobs, bring them back, more opportunity, more wealth, common good, you know what I mean? Building together for a brighter future. I think people would get on board with it.
Country, anti-communism has been something we've nurtured for a long time, with things like the Immigration Acts of 1903 and 1918, which enabled the government to deport foreign-born anarchists.
Second thought, the thing is, I actually can reach out. Thank you so much, PJ.
If infrared broke into the national conversation, it would become wildly popular among a lot of patriots. If you don't give up, this will happen.
I appreciate that, PJ. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate the 5. But yeah, I mean, what this guy doesn't understand is that, dude, all of these anti-communists you're talking about, dude, they're my viewer. They used to be, those are the people my viewers used to be. I can actually talk to those people. You can't. Despite the fact that you get more views than me, all these people are just people who already agree with you. I'm the one who can actually talk to these anti-communists you're referring to. And you keep saying the same thing over. You're never going to reach common ground with them. I promise. Because you're not understanding. You're making a straw man of where they're coming from. You're not understanding why they associate socialism with all these things. You're not respecting the reason. You're just saying it's groundless and it's illegitimate. Sorry, dude, it's not the case.
Communists and labor organizers, the successive Red Scares during the 20th century, and obviously the Cold War. The notion that anti-communism is patriotic is a really well-established one. The result is that when combined with capitalist realism, this idea of a resolutely anti-communist, ontologically capitalist America makes it seem like there is no alternative, and anyone proposing anything that would clearly improve your life, if they're—
Dude, I'm actually an intellectual. Stop using these words. You just sound pretentious. In no context would just... Thank you so much, Harold.
If MLK was on Twitter today, leftists would be calling him a fascist and advocating for his censorship.
I unironically think that. Thank you so much, Harold. Listen, dude, I'm trying to... JT, you need to understand something. It's not as deep. You don't need to sound like a pretentious pseudo-intellectual saying, oh, the capitalist realism that America is... It's not that deep, dude. You don't need to use these buzzwords to understand why ordinary Americans want to be able to open businesses and not have the government breathing down their fucking necks. That's not capitalist realism, dude. That's a distrust of the government. You're not respecting Americans' distrust of the government. Period. Dude, you think the Americans love the government? They don't. We all hate the government. The government taxes us and gives us speeding tickets for no fucking reason, dude. We don't like that shit. It's not, you don't have to ontologically capitalist realism. You can't even relate to normal American sentiments. Why the fuck are you going to just be bitching that Americans are too reactionary for your enlightened ideology when you can't even level with them and understand where they're coming from? It's not that deep. They're not literally metaphysically committed to some uniquely capitalist system. They're just against your proposed alternatives, and I agree with them. Your proposed alternatives is just Hitlerism. You're basically saying, let's just make the government bigger and institutionalize more of our society according to the contrived whims of the coastal elites. I'm against that too. You can call me an anti-communist if you want. I'm also against that. Yeah, let's smash the bureaucracy. No more red tape. Government is the problem. Government doesn't fucking work. It's stupid. It doesn't work well. We need something new. We need to cultivate the talents and abilities of people. We need a simpler government of the working people, aka a proletarian dictatorship that does work, period. Not the current overbloated bureaucracy we have now. It's literally that fucking simple, man.
They're doing so by challenging a capitalist norm, might be ruining the only thing that we know works.
No. It's not an ontological commitment, capitalist realism. It's more like when people think of capitalism, they're thinking like, oh, this is the one thing I'm allowed to do without the government breathing down my fucking neck. Capitalism is all the ways I can make money. Socialism is all the ways I'm either in debt or my money's being taxed. That's what people think of in their fucking head. When they're doing capitalism, they're doing things. They're breathing. They're working. When they're doing socialism, they're paying their taxes to the fucking government. So both you and PragerU are working hand in hand to reinforce these negative associations people intuitively have with the word socialism. Because both you and PragerU are justifying those associations and reinforcing them. And giving them more content and context.
Works, even if it clearly hasn't been working for a long time now. Patriotism, like capitalist realism, really limits our imagination.
Shut up. I wish I was on Rumble, dude. It's limiting our imagination. I want to imagine. Let's imagine. Dude, go to Disney World then. Just go to fucking Disney World. Imagine. You're stopping your ability to imagine? It's like you talk to a working class person. It's more like, yo, let's get it done. Let's get it done, right? Let's get it done. And this guy's like, I want to imagine. Dude, you sound like a boutique Marie Antoinette latte liberal sitting in some Parisian cafe. I merely want to imagine. Is this a working class sentiment? Is this a working class state of mind? Is this a working class mentality? Is that how does that relate to working class people? If you want to imagine shit, Shut the fuck up. Sit on your couch in silence and actually do the work of imagining it. And then give us your results. Don't sit here and tell us you want to imagine things. Go fucking do the work and then give us your results so that we take time out of our precious day to listen to what you have to say. No one is interested in you complaining about wanting to imagine other things. Give us something tangible. The working class speaks the language of tangibility, not potentiality. The working class doesn't care about potentiality. They care about tangibility.
When people come up with good ideas about how to change things for the better, if we keep calling them un-American and shooting them down right away, this country won't get any better for the vast majority of the people living both inside and outside its borders. And just to be clear before the video ends, this whole video isn't me coming after you for being American, if you are. There's obviously nothing wrong with just being from here.
You're American too, dude.
All I'm saying is that it doesn't make a huge amount of sense to be proud of this vague mythology that is at best a mixed bag. And in
vague mythology? Dude, I'm okay. Dude, you don't think communist history is a vague mythology? That's at best a mixed bag. You can look at anything like that. You could say that about any revolution in history. It's a vague mythology. Well, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean it's somehow not real or meaningful. Right? I mean, do you guys think the October Revolution was this like dramatized like thing where everything went perfectly? Dude, in the October Revolution, people stormed the Winter Palace and got fucking drunk. They raided the wine cellar. They just drank all the wine and got drunk. It was a mess. It was a mess. But yes, afterwards it became mythologized. And then when they filmed Eisenstein or whatever, they filmed the reenactment, they would smash the wine bottles on the ground in the reenactment to make it more ideologically correct. That's a mythology. That doesn't mean they're lying. That doesn't mean it's wrong. Doesn't mean it's meaningless. They're trying to epitomize the common ideals and common consciousness that the revolution represents in the eyes of the majority of the working people. That doesn't mean it's a fiction and it's wrong and it's immaterial. It's actually more material than a bland realism which cannot take into account the dialectical vacillations permeating the realm of materiality. The material world is ambiguous. It is inherently vague. It's quantum logic, right? It's potentialities. It's waves and vacillations. It's not some clear-cut, strict gray realism. Nothing meaningful about anything could be understood if that's how you interpret. Oh, the October. Yeah, there were a lot of ideologically inconvenient details of every political event in history. That doesn't mean the way that those are given remembrance are fictional mythologies that have no meaning.
Insisting that everyone here be proud of it only makes it harder for us to change the parts we all agree are bad. Constantly thinking in terms of nation-states like this is really blinding us to the fact that we have a lot more to gain by building solidarity everywhere, all over the world, not just within.
One global community.
In our own arbitrary borders. Let's let go of patriotism in favor of genuine solidarity. I mentioned at the beginning of this video.
Let's let go of patriotism in favor of genuine solidarity. Thank you so much, Nowhere.
This second thought person wants to be British living in London so bad.
No, even the British aren't this stupid. You go to your average British guy, and he's like, "Oi, what, mate? Yeah, I'm a Brit. Yeah, I'm a British working class." They're very nationally rooted sentimentally. You know? He said, let's cast aside patriotism in favor of solidarity. If only there were no objectively existing national realities. If only the actual reality of the world was the same as YouTube, where everyone is just a username on the internet and not rooted in different, fundamentally different communities of shared historical experience and shared meaning and shared in different ways of life. Those don't exist materially. So as long as we eliminate the prejudice in our head, we can actually become, dude, oh my God, Max Stirner was right. If we just like eliminate the spook of patriotism in our head, all of our national specificities that objectively exist will just stop existing. Dude, have you ever... Dude, Stalin... Wait, I'm going to be Stalin right now. Hi guys, I'm Stalin. I'm about to write nationalism... Sorry, I'm about to write Marxism and the national question. I am JV Stalin. I'm about to write Marxism and the national question. Who is this young guy with a purple background? What is he saying?
Borders. Let's let go of patriotism in favor of genuine solidarity.
Huh. I see. Here I was thinking there was a national question, but I'm take this piece of paper and crumple it up, throw it in the garbage. I'm not writing this anymore, guys. I realized I can just dispense with all national differences and national realities. I didn't realize that all we had to do was get rid of patriotism in favor of solidarity. Okay. I'm going to write a new book. Solidarity. Let's all... Can't we all just get along and end the book? This is what the Marxist canon calls phase-mongering. Phrase-mongering. Solidarity! It's a phrase. What does that actually mean? What's the meat and potatoes? Nothing. It's just a phrase. There's likes on Twitter. Let's all agree to ratio Haas on Twitter! Solidarity!
I mentioned at the beginning of this video that my channel is only possible thanks to my patrons on Patreon.
Shut up. Fuck your Patreon. Alright. So yeah. I don't wanna know. Da, 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 da. Alright, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Good stream. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. See you guys tomorrow. Great stream. Beautiful stream. Great time. Beautiful time. See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye. Patreon Q&A tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow. Bye-bye.